Finding Gnosis show.
Through the cosmic indifference and through despair, we dig for meaning that might be there. No promises of comfort or bliss, just truths we strive not to dismiss. This is the Finding Gnosis show, where illusions break and deeper truths grow. Philosophy and thought light the way through the dark toward a brighter day. Not endless struggle, but a fight worth the cost, seeking the meaning we thought was lost. Pessimism asks, why even try? We answer with questions reaching the sky. A critique of the systems, the myths we hold, a reflection on truths both stark and bold. Depressive realism clears the haze, while hope takes root in critical gaze. We search for a path, no matter how steep, to find the truths that lay buried deep. This is the Finding Gnosis show, where illusions break and deeper truths grow. Philosophy and thought light the way through the dark toward a brighter day. Not endless struggle, but a fight worth the cost, seeking the meaning we thought was lost. We don't promise ease, we don't promise rest, but a journey to uncover what's best. In cosmic indifference we still find might, to question, to change and to ignite. Welcome to Finding Gnosis, where truth takes a stand. Together we search, together we understand. Through reflection, critique and bold exploration, we strive for meaning and revelation. The journey begins, the truths will unfold. This is the Finding Gnosis show. Through the cosmic indifference and through despair, we dig for meaning that might be there. No promises of comfort or bliss, just truths we strive not to dismiss. This is the Finding Gnosis show, where illusions break and deeper truths grow. Philosophy and thought light the way through the dark toward a brighter day. Not endless struggle, but a fight worth the cost, seeking the meaning we thought was lost. Pessimism asks, why even try? We answer with questions reaching the sky. A critique of the systems, the myths we hold. A reflection on truths both stark and bold. Depressive realism clears the haze, while hope takes root in critical gaze. We search for a path, no matter how steep, to find the truths that lay buried deep. This is the Finding Gnosis show, where illusions break and deeper truths grow.
Hello.
Philosophy and thought light the way through the dark toward a bright.
In the background.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 10th episode of the Finding Gnosis show. I do hope you're well. Tonight, we are talking about mental health, a topic chosen by you, the people who voted for it, on the community post here at the Finding Gnosis channel on YouTube. Hello, if you're watching on Twitter as well. The link is in the live chat on YouTube. If you want to come on here, please do. There's plenty of seats waiting for you. So don't be afraid. You will be most welcome. And hopefully we'll have a conversation that gets somewhere conducive to improving all of our well-being, helping us all lead a better life in this hellscape reality that we find ourselves in, where suffering abounds, where there is misery, where there is pain and torment, where there is mental illness, where there is, the worst experience of the worst. But hopefully, just hopefully, we can improve our plight individually and collectively to experience better somehow or other. That is the hope. That is the aspiration. And hopefully we will get there somehow or other through conversation, through learning from each other. And we'll see what happens. Hello to everybody in the comments. We have plenty of comments there at the moment. We have King Capricornio. Good to see you again. Diane, Tenatalist. Let's go. We've also got Necker King, the Necker King, which is a toy and games review channel by none other than D Prophet. Okay, so D Prophet, or the Necker King, says that mindfulness is important because the only way to solve your mental health issues is to drop the anger in your heart, and the only way to do that is to be present and forgive. So to be present and forgive, to be present in the moment. Mike Donegan wants to talk about declining birth rates. The Necker King, aka D Prophet, says they'll come on in an hour or so, or he'll come on in an hour or so. Sorry, I don't. Maybe he does identify as a they them. I can't remember. Sorry. Chickpea, the Torty says, Mike, why would anyone want to bring another human being into this blood-soaked poop house? Oh, okay. There you go. That's Chickpea's opinion. Diane Tenatalist wants to talk about serial killers or declining birth rates next. Well, I mean, that was on the possible agenda. People could have voted for serial killers to be spoken about today, but they didn't. So we'll see. We'll see. Hello to Brother Marcus is in the house. Thank you, Brother Marcus, for sharing the stream. I do appreciate it. I saw you shared it on your community post. Thank you, brother. I hope you'll be able to join us when you can tonight. It's always good to have you on here giving your contribution. So hopefully you'll get on here again. And Chickpea says again, Mike, you might enjoy this documentary. I wish you were never born. A documentary. Yeah, I've seen that one. Mike Donegan, I don't want more people. Less or no people would be best. Well, Oh, well, this is J.E. in the house. Welcome, J.E. This is a literal shit stain. It sucks so bad. Agreed at Chickpea, the Torty. So J.E. is clearly not loving this existence today. Sorry to hear that, J.E. But I suppose one can love existence in and of itself for yourself, but be, perplexed or worried about it or sad about it for others. So maybe he is enjoying life today. He's just thinking perhaps of the bigger picture, which is worrying. Which is worrying. Yes, it did get many votes. It was a democratic decision, but it didn't get the most votes. So there you go. Jay says this world is a literal shit stain. It sucks so bad. Oh, sorry, I've already read that. Okay, Chickpea and Chickpea agrees with um with Jay there. There we go. Chickpea says, "Thank you, Jay. Most folk never agree with anything that she has to say." And Jay, I'm really sorry to see it. Jay says he doesn't enjoy life at all. Jay, do you want to come on here, brother? Mike Dunnigan is here again. He says he saw it as well as in Mendham's and the other English guys' reviews. Okay, I think you're talking about that documentary again. I wish you were never born. And we've got D Prophet in the house. He says he's going to join us later on his other channel, the Necker King. Maybe, or maybe he'll come on this alias. D Prophet says that he loves every moment of his life, including the bad ones. So that will be interesting to hear about. And Chickpea JE is giving you positive vibes. Okay, well, I suppose there's about 19 of you there, so do come on here if you want to, and have your say about mental health or mental illness, or anything along those lines, and how you feel about existence, how you cope with mental illness if you have it, how you maintain your positive mental health if you can. Perhaps how you try to help others who are having difficulty with their mental health. All things mental health, all things in that place of thoughts. Now, I do have a few questions as usual, in advance. Here's something I prepared earlier, kind of thing. So I will throw them out there as little icebreakers just to get the questions and the conversation flowing. So yeah. Guys, don't leave us hanging here. We've got the great Seb here, obviously, but we want a bit more of a conversation, because that's what it's all about. So the link is there. Do come on and say hello. And moderators, as usual, your job is to moderate the chat if you're there. JE is one, I know that. Brother Marcus, I think, is one. Whoever's it, there's nearly everyone is one. So there you go. All right. So we have Seb here. Seb, is there anything you'd like to say in particular at the start of this stream tonight on mental health?
Yes. So there's a lot that can be talked about. So I'm just going
to say one thing. Can I just say one thing, okay? Before you do say that, right? Everything that's been said tonight is just an opinion of the person talking. It's not to be taken as advice. It's to be merely listened to as somebody's opinion on their own experience. If you truly want to do something about your own mental health, I would say that you should listen to yourself, or somebody who is a responsible adult in your life, not some randomer on the internet. This is merely for conversation purposes only, some entertainment, also the sharing of ideas. But the truth is, this is not something that should be taken literally. You might pick up some nugget of wisdom that will help you, hopefully. But it will just be something in the toolbox of your mind to help you formulate your own way forward. None of us here have the answers as to what to do for sure. We're all just trying to collectively, gather together to try and find our own path through this hellscape reality, as I said earlier, where there's so much suffering, and we find it quite worrying, quite troublesome, and it torments us. So yeah, that's that out of the way. So yeah, Seb, as you were, brother.
Yeah. So if one is if one is a human, one is prone to many mental health problems. There are neural circuitry that has to be in balance. Excess glutamate in the neural circuits can create anxiousness, and excess glutamate can create like schizophrenia, like stuff like that. There are many things that doesn't go in favor of the human species when it comes to mental health. One of the things are the uh, what I would consider the poor the reward system of people. So there is so people don't easily get that thrill out
Hmm.
of things, while
Right.
pain seems to be in abundance. To make the situation worse, the mental health professionals, they provide treatments that exasperates the poor reward systems that people already has. A poor reward system that people has tends to get worse with a lot of these antidepressants. A better name for them would actually be sedatives.
Okay.
Antidepressants tends to
Jay,
increase
Jay, brother.
serotonin concentrations in the brain, and serotonin has been dubbed the happy hormone, but it's actually involved in slowing down a lot of activity in the
Yeah.
nervous system, which can
Have you got
contribute to
Jay,
pneumonia.
Seb? Seb, that's interesting. Have you got any like sources for this? Any, news articles, papers, or such that you want to share? Perhaps we can read them out.
Uh, do I have to? That's exhausting. I have to have a link to
Well,
everything you say.
it would be a good idea, brother, to do that. Because then we
I
can
don't
all
have
kind
a
of.
link. Do you go around carrying links to every information
No,
you have?
no, but if you could, that would be good. Because you said what you said
I'm not
there was
writing
interesting.
like
You
a
said you
university
you said you said
research.
serotonin is linked to slowing down the brain's thought process. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean,
I've
maybe
never heard that
that would
before. I
be
mean, I'm
that.
not
It's
I'm
not
not saying
only
you're wrong. I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know, but I'm just saying where did you hear that from? That's what I was
oh
asking.
yeah, but where did I hear that from?
Hmm.
First of all, serotonin seems to have some sort of it seems to put a break in the dopaminergic functions, which I mean, people. It does explain why people on SSRIs tend to be more demoralized by the world, right? They
Right.
have,
I
I
mean,
mean, it's
can I
proven
can
that
I give my can I, I'm no expert on the kind of neurochemistry behind the scenes in antidepressants and their usage, but I've heard that it does make people more or less numb to some degree, um, and that's not everybody, but some people feel extremely numb on SSRIs, and it doesn't. People are under the false impression that SSRIs are happy pills. They don't actually make people happy. Okay, what they do is they take the edge off things and they make things less, perhaps, tormenting in a way. But you kind of would still have thoughts. You're just a little bit numb to them. Is that right, Seb?
yeah, I mean, it can vary. A lot of people can have very mixed reactions. Some can have extreme anxiety. Some can never experience pressure again in their entire life. And some, I mean, some might be very drowsy, right?
Right.
It depends. It can go from being, but it actually gives some sort of sedating effect. There's no one who takes SSRIs that. I mean, it's not a performance enhancing drug. Let's just say that.
Okay, Seb. Seb, if you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to read something I found today because I heard about this yesterday, and I just googled it. So sometimes, you know, Seb, you can Google these things and you can find links. Just saying. But
Yeah,
I
but that's
heard
boring.
that. Okay, Seb. One moment. I heard that several psychiatric disorders share the same genetic root cause, and this is an interesting finding. It might be relevant tonight. I'll quickly read this article. I haven't read this article. I apologize beforehand if it proves not fruitful. Researchers recently, this is from ScienceAlert.com. Researchers recently discovered that 8 different psychiatric conditions share a common genetic basis. Okay, a new study has now honed in on some of those shared genetic variants to understand their properties. They found that many are active for longer during brain development and potentially impact multiple stages, suggesting they could be new targets to treat multiple conditions. The proteins produced by these genes are also highly connected to other proteins, explains University of North Carolina geneticist Haijung Won. Changes to these proteins in particular could ripple through the network, potentially causing widespread effects on the brain. Okay. In 2019, an international team of researchers identified 109 genes that were associated in different combinations with 8 different psychiatric disorders, including autism, ADHD, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, Tourette syndrome, obsessive compulsory disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and and anorexia. This may explain why so many of these conditions present with similar symptoms or turn up together, like between autism and ADHD. They say up to 70% of people who have one also have the other two, and they often both show up in the same families. So each of these 8 conditions also has gene differences that are unique to them individually. So one and a team compared their unique genes with those shared between the disorders. They took almost 18,000 variations of the shared and unique genes involved and put them into the precursor cells that become our neurons to see how they could impact gene expression in these cells during human development. This allowed the researchers to identify 683 genetic variants that impacted gene regulation and to further explore them in neurons from, unfortunately, they used mice in the experiment, so from developing mice. Genetic variants behind multiple seemingly unrelated traits, or in this case, conditions, are called pleiotropic. The pleiotropic variants were involved in many more protein to protein interactions than the gene variants unique to specific psychological conditions, and they were active across more types of brain cells. Okay, so let me just skip ahead here. Right. Okay, so the gist of it is, guys, that there's 109 genes that are kind of the cause. This is what this team of researchers argue of 8 different psychiatric disorders, including autism, ADHD, schizophrenia, bipolar, major depressive disorder, Tourette syndrome, obsessive compulsive disorder, and anorexia. And so it's kind of in what way the genes are expressed, I think epigenetically, okay, that causes whichever to come out as an expression of those genes. So for one person, it could be ADHD. For another, it could be depressive disorder. For another, it could be anorexia or bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, autism. Now, this is to me very, very interesting, but it's also it also speaks to the fact that if one person in your family has ADHD, for example, or schizophrenia, or whatever, has one of these illnesses, somebody else in your family will have one of the other ones as well. Maybe to some lesser or greater degree. Who knows? But it's just interesting because like people often think that it's one thing that runs in families. It's like they're a family of manic depressives, but it's not the case. They could be, for example, a manic depressive father, an autistic child, an ADHD sister, a autistic brother, whatever. So yeah, it's interesting. It's just something that I read lately. I thought it was interesting, and it does speak to the fact that I am someone who has a major depressive disorder. So I've dealt with that more or less all my life, and it's all my life. I just didn't know what it was when I was very young. But it does speak to me because I remember the fact that when you read about mental health problems, you see the list of symptoms and you're thinking, "Fuck, that's me," and you end up thinking that your biography is that list of mental illnesses that those American psychiatrists have. I forget what it's called. Because you could be in nearly every mental illness like category when you look at the symptoms, because like there's like, I don't know, 10 symptoms for each one. You've got to have 4 for each one. And sometimes when I read them, I think, well, fuck me, I have that one and that one and that one and that one, possibly that one. And it's just interesting. Therefore, when you see the genetic basis for this is linked to the same genes. And that's probably why there's so many similarities in them. I mean, we can talk about what those similarities are tonight. I think obviously definitely kind of unwanted intrusive thoughts is one. Intense feelings, perhaps. I don't, these aren't medical terms, but intense feelings, intrusive thoughts. Also a kind of rigidity sometimes, perhaps. Sometimes in some of the illnesses, a rigidity in your persona and your personality. Perhaps you're not as fluid, perhaps as you'd like to be, because you're stuck in one area of experiencing life or presenting your or projecting your experience of it. Anyway, we've got Chickpea here. Seb, is there anything you'd like to say about that article before we let Chickpea say something?
Yes. It's genes that ultimately shape how cells and cell structures will develop. There is stuff like the dendrite branching that takes up the surface area of a neuron, where receptors lies. Popularly to contrary belief, having sensitive receptors, having decent receptors, it's actually useful. It's there for a reason. It makes for some good emotional regulation, right? Like a proper emotional regulation. So a lot of these genes, like the COMT gene, can lead to like a proper decrease of dopamine. There's like the Kebra gene and a lot of other genes that influence these neurotransmitters. So this is
Okay,
all
Seb.
very important.
Right, Seb, thank you for that. So we have Jai here. Jai, welcome. I just want to say, Chickpea, for some reason your device is not connected, so you'll have to. Oh no, you're back now. Chickpea's back again. Jai, if you wouldn't mind standing by, brother. I did say I'd introduce Chickpea first. Chickpea, is there anything you'd like to say before we delve in and commence our deep dive? Sorry? Chickpea, you're muted. I didn't mute you. Okay, well, Jay, if you could begin with your opening remarks, perhaps, whatever they may be. It's interesting to hear what just comes to someone's mind at the beginning. and then at the end as well. Go for it, Jay. Anything you'd like to say about mental health in general before we continue tonight's stream?
I think, well, hello to everyone. Most, um, one of the most
Jay,
overlooked things about mental health in this world is that, huh?
I seem to be having kind of problems with hearing you. You seem to be a bit like robotic, or a little. The reception isn't that great. I don't know what you're using, but you're
You
coming in a
called
bit
him
choppy.
robotic. That was very rude.
Yeah, you're coming through a bit
I'm
choppy there,
kidding. I'm
Jay.
kidding. I'm kidding.
All right, go ahead, Jay. We'll see if it improves.
No, I was just gonna say that I think one of the most important things about mental health in this world is, as Prophet Marcus said in his quote in the comments, he said that it is no measure of good health to be what is it? It's no measure of good health to be uh, well
It's on the
adjusted to
screen
a
there now.
profoundly sick society. Yeah, right. It is no measure
Yeah.
of good health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So,
Mhm,
everyone who says
mhm.
that, things like depression are a sign of mental health issues, I feel like if that's it's a bad way to frame it. It's a framing issue. I mean, instead of framing something like depression as bad, what if depression is actually an indicator that the person actually is in a proper state of mental health because they're actually in a part of an environment that isn't healthy and isn't good, So like I feel like, for example, framing something like depression as bad is um in this world is a toxic way to frame it, because depression can actually be an indicator that the world itself or your environment is not healthy and that you shouldn't be a part of it. You know, and yeah, I just feel like the existence of mental health issues on the whole is even more of an indicator that this world is a hell realm. You know what I mean? I think we just need to cut
Right.
the bullshit and just look at the world for what it is and just see it that this place is hell. This place is not a good place.
Right. Yes. I want to add a kind of caveat to that, I suppose. That yes, it may be bad, but don't forget, it's also. Uh, I agree with what Brother Marcus said there as well. By the way, that quote you brought up about mental health or good mental health in a sick world isn't a sign that you're sane. But the problem is, people are trying to feel good, and you can't blame them for that. And life is often so bad, reality
Hmm.
is so torturous that people are just trying to do their best. They're trying to feel okay. And yeah, life might be hell. If you zoom out, look in it, as the Monty Python sketch song says, life's a piece of shit when you look at it. But you're still here. You still have to live, and you still have to find a way to try and feel better, okay, whilst you're here, so that you can function. Because if you don't function, okay, if you have a dysfunction, you're going to feel worse. And if feeling bad is a problem, just skeptical, because it makes you feel like this is a hell realm, well, then it seems a terrible idea to wallow in that so much that you don't try and find a way to feel better, if you understand what I mean. It seems
No, I
counterproductive,
do try
does
to
it not?
feel better, but
Yeah. No,
it
I'm
just
not
if
saying
it,
about you personally. I'm just saying in general. I think it's
mhm.
important to try and feel better despite our circumstances, despite what we find ourselves in. It's important to try and lift oneself up and others as much as possible. Um,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally. And can I
as
just
as
respond to one thing that Oh, sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I just said, as Brother Marcus says, there are goods in life, and we generate terrestrial meaning. Uh, we do, and they can be good copes. So go ahead, just skeptical.
No, yeah. I just wanted to say that well, yeah. At the end of the day, they're just ways to cope. They're not ways that we can actually like fully. It's not some life isn't something that you can fully enjoy. So that it can to be reinforces that it's bad. You can only cope with it. And yes, I want to respond to this too, where the prophet said, "Why didn't we have a mental health crisis before the 1970s?" I would say that there was mental health issues, but they just weren't framed as mental health issues. People were just like toxic. They were just framed as normal behaviors that people see were seem to believe were normal and acceptable. So they weren't deemed as mental health issues. I feel like mental health issues have always existed, but they've either been downplayed and overlooked and not really talked about, or they were just framed as toxic behaviors that people just came to accept as being normal. You know what I mean? So I disagree with him that there
Yeah,
was never a mental
I
health
mean,
crisis. I believe that there's always been mental health problems.
of course, there's always been mental health problems. They just weren't categorized as perhaps mental health crises. I mean, it was depending on what uh, tier and economically you were in society. There wasn't much conversation around it. For example, if you were in the working class, I mean, it was seen as indeed it was encouraged, I would say, for you to drink and have your copes that were, I would say, harmful in a way, but you were seen as somebody kind of surplus to requirements intellectually and emotionally. You weren't invited to the dinner parties of the upper class, so you were just a peasant to be put to the grindstone to do the work, and they didn't really care about your mental health. They just cared that you were productive,
Hmm.
and when you were no longer productive, well, I suppose it's time to die, isn't it? So you weren't really a major concern. But it is interesting when you look at the literature of like the 19th century and the kind of lamenting on like neurosis and stuff. It was very much a kind of upper class thing. It was posh women, going to see some, quack somewhere who had an idea about, neuroticism being part of the female condition, and basically trying to cure them of what was often, wasn't as this is a bit like they weren't perhaps even mentally ill. They were just reacting to an awful time, as bad as it was now. Some of the people that lived in the 19th century, for example, 18th century, some of the women in particular, I'm sure they had an awful time. They were, oppressed. They didn't have a right to vote. They didn't have the right to kind of say and wear what they wanted. So I imagine that would cause anyone a mental
Yeah.
difficulties. And it wasn't that they were actually mental in and of themselves. They weren't delusional. And by the way, this is another problem. Mental health problems are often written off as someone being out of touch with reality. Okay. Whereas in my experience, some of the people I've met who have mental illness that affect them on a daily basis have been some of the most insightful, okay, people with their finger on the pulse of what is going on in the news, what is going on, in the human condition, and also, yeah. So that I wouldn't say it's fair to label someone with mental health problems as crazy. Crazy is a euphemism often put out there unfairly, and it is a word that does kind of like, whether we like it or not. I mean, we've all used it. I've used it, but it does kind of dehumanize the person, and we just got to be very careful about that, because we've got to remember that people who are having mental health problems are people. They are human beings like us, and the other side to this is they may be saying things that seem out there sometimes. Okay, but if you're a little bit humble, okay, even if you might not agree with them, like I don't agree that there's fucking aliens coming in the middle of the night to, for example, abduct or penetrate someone, and if they're telling me that, I'm not going to believe it, right? But equally, I'm going to be humble enough to say I don't know what the fuck's going on in reality. Now, I don't believe what they're saying, but I'm sure someone could look at a lot of what I'm saying and say it's crazy, say it's So we've got to be careful pointing fingers at each other, calling each other crazy, because we can all be picked apart for that, I believe. in my view, in my humble opinion.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
right.
No, yeah, I agree.
yeah.
This is what I was
What I
saying
want to
earlier with my
say is
first point,
that
which is that,
the
you know,
crazy ones
society often
are really
reframes mental
are
health
really
issues in
the
a negative.
people like the mental health.
One at a time.
Uh,
One at a time, Childers. One at a time, Childers. We'll go with Seb first. Seb. Again, guys, just don't talk on and on and on. Like 2 minutes max, I suppose, because we want to keep it as a flowing conversation. Go ahead, Seb.
yes, so I feel like the way the patients are treated, they're treated in an overly like an overly unfair way, where like every piece of information, everything that can be used against them would, but they are not held, but the evidence that's used against them to sort of prove that they're mentally ill, the evidence that's needed to label someone as mentally ill, it's uh, I mean, it's very poor evidence, right? So there's a and so the problem is like a mental health expert can just come up with whatever sort of bullshit they come up with, and there's no criminal trial, there's no civil trial, and if one tries to take legal actions, it would be seen as going against their opinion, which would be seen as a delusion. So there's very little way
Okay, Seb.
against.
Thank you for that. Jay, is there something you want to say? Um,
Yeah, no, I was just saying that this is what I was saying with my first point, which is exactly what you're saying, that people tend to write off those with mental health issues as, you know, being in the wrong or being crazy or whatever. But like you said, they are often the ones who are actually in the know about a lot of things, and actually they're closer to the truth in on
right.
what they believe. You know, like I was saying with the depression thing, you know, like
Uh,
just because someone is depressed, that doesn't mean that they're wrong about life and that they need help. It
right.
it,
Right.
it,
Right.
it very well could be the case that they are actually um, reacting to what is actually like a bad or evil world or environment, and it's actually a
Right.
healthy
Right.
response for them to be depressed.
Right. 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 I just want to say also something that popped into my mind is, people aren't just their mental health problems. The mental health problem that they have isn't always manifesting in a way that's negative for them or for others. So it's something we have to be aware of, because they say that, for example, it's a mental health problem to think in black and white terms. I think humans do that a lot anyway, outside of it being a clinical problem. I think that we do, for example, have a tendency to really dehumanize people. If they say, for example, they've got a mental health problem, we sometimes categorize them as surplus requirements, not necessary to listen to them. That they're not going to have anything worthwhile to in terms to say. But again, I think that's a very naive and ignorant, stupid thing to think, because I genuinely think we all, mental health is just like physical health. Okay, I think that's where we're getting to as a species. We all need to move the body, and we all need to like work on the mind. Because it is just another facet of our being. Okay, it takes work. And obviously the problem is it takes work, but it also creates a burden and a huge problem for a lot of people. Okay, now having said that, you do have to recognize also that there are benefits to certain ways. Okay, and I'm not saying I'd wish it on anybody, but some mental health problems or illnesses or conditions, um, they have positive sides to them. But when that person is in a good place, they can be a very high functioning individual. Okay, they can bring a lot to the table in terms of ideas, utility, if you want to use that word, although I don't like, describing people in those terms. So yeah, if you're, for example, autistic, You know, people will say, "Oh, that's a problem of the mind," but you know, those people can be hyper focused, very mechanically, scientifically, engineering minded, and they can come up with amazing new developments, new inventions, ways of looking at the world, solving problems, etc. Same with, I suppose depression. People who have depression can be very empathetic. Not always, but if they're in a good place, they can be, and because they can understand others, they kind of look and they think deeply about the human condition, perhaps sometimes. And sometimes that's a benefit to society. People with bipolar disorder, I mean, they can have this amazing energy, that is captivating or contagious. Okay, so they're good. Sometimes they're good at leading people, and also sometimes they're very loving, as are a lot of people with mental health problems, because they know what it's like to suffer. So sometimes people who suffer are the ones who want other people to feel better as well, and it's a weird situation because they feel the pain in others and they want them to feel better, uh, but they're suffering themselves. So it's a very messy, it's a very colorful, very strange situation wherein all humans have the potential for going a bit topsy turvy in their mental health. And the other side, the other thing to talk about here, which we haven't gone into yet, is I suppose it's related to what I read at the beginning about 109 different genes being responsible for 8 different psychiatric conditions. The other issue is it's not people's fault. So these things are genetically, predetermined for people. And sometimes, as good old Seb has shown, we have this thing called synaptic pruning. So when we're young, our brain is developing. Basically, those experiences you're having as a child, as a teenager, they're shaping the way your brain thinks. And if you're having bad experiences, okay, or if you're being mistreated, miseducated, or you've just had some trauma in your life, well, unfortunately, your brain is going to start pruning off the bits of the brain that aren't having thoughts that are being used. Okay, so that it's going to be pruning off parts of the brain that aren't being used, and you're going to be left with the kind of neural pathways, the synapses that are being utilized, because Mother Nature wants to conserve energy and use energy only for that which is required for survival. And Mother Nature doesn't have thoughts or feelings in and of herself, but what she's thinking is when someone's thinking something, if they're continuously thinking it, well, then it's favorsome to their survival. So what she starts to do is she starts snipping away other parts of the brain, making them redundant, so that the brain favors the neural pathways of the bits that are being used. And unfortunately, some people have bad experiences in their childhood, and that becomes a way of imprinting on them uh, thoughts for their life going into the future. So again, it's not their fault. So Brother Marcus says life is one big psychiatric condition. Yeah, I mean the other side to it is people who are functioning, okay, can be very very ill indeed, which is something that's interesting. Just because you're mentally ill doesn't mean you will have a dysfunction. For example, you could have narcissistic personality disorder and be a really really successful, even world-leading politician, not to name any names. Uh, you could be the CEO of some company, you could be a celebrity, but yet you have a psychiatric condition, a problem. Perhaps people are afraid to tell you that, but in person at least. But yeah, again, psychopaths, um, what do you call it? Narcissists, as I've said, all the dark tetra. What they call them now? There's 4 of them. There's like psychopathy, narcissism, Machiavellianism, sadism. Again, to me, they're all cheeks of the one arse. They're just a kind of malevolent way towards others that is coming out in that person's nature. But again, whether we like it or not, it's not that person's fault either. They didn't choose to be who they are. Now, that's a very uncomfortable thing, a pill to swallow. But if we're going to be empathetic about and be a bit grown up about this, we have to realize that the human species is one clusterfuck of problems, and it's not people's fault. So that's just all I'm going to say on that at the moment.
Right, which is why I say that this world is hell. You know, we just keep passing on these mental health issues to the next generation, generation after generation, and nothing really seems to change. You know.
So yeah, what about Mike Donegan says maybe parents should understand the complexity of what's in there. I mean, they do. As I said, this is
Exactly, Meg. Yeah.
they do. I mean, I'm sure they do, but they just think it's worth it, and that's the other thing. You can't. Like it, as hard as it is to accept. People have their subjective feelings and experience of this life, and some of them think it's a bed of roses, and it's a good thing no matter what, and that's just the way it is. Obviously, the other side to this is some people aren't in charge of their thinking because of a mental illness. They might have a mental illness themselves, so that's why they don't really think too much about existence or what it is to bring someone here. Again, that's not their fault because they have a mental illness. There was one other point I wanted to make, and that is the interesting point that we have to accept also that the people who can help other people who are mentally ill are actually generally their peers or people who've been through it themselves and maybe overcome it. That's something to be wary of, when you're saying get rid of the mentally ill people, because you won't get rid of mentally ill people because all humans are capable of having mental illness. Okay, so you're not going to get rid of mentally ill people. Eugenics won't work. Every human being is capable of feeling or cause or having mental illness. Okay, so if you get rid of a segment of them, well, you're not going to have the survivors of mental illness to help those who are going through it. So it might be an unintended negative consequence. That's just something that just came to mind. I don't know if that makes sense, Jay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, a lot of the people, for example, who can help, others with PTSD or depression were once themselves people who suffered from those same conditions. So I agree with that.
I would also say that I think, you, a mental health problem should actually occur probably at some point in your life. I mean, I would say you're not really human if you don't have a mental health problem at some stage of your life. And by that I mean a disturbance in your way of thinking, a rude awakening, a mellow period.
A dark night of the soul.
Like Jay, like
Yeah,
Jay,
dark night of the soul, exactly.
like Jay mentioned, it does speak volumes of how hellish reality is. So that was a good point
Yeah.
that you brought up. I like to say that I guess there seems to be like a lot of a reverse effort or reduced effort that comes into this. The more people try to mend with other people's minds and control their minds with psychiatric drugs, the more new problems are created. So somebody could have like a lot of anger issues, or they're very angry, and then they go to a psychiatrist, they're given SSRIs, and all of a sudden they can never experience pleasure again, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it is true. I mean, psychiatric medication can really fuck people up, and there are those disclaimers on the packet saying, this antidepressant can make you suicidal. So like, it's fucked up, but like, that's the other. It is a huge problem, man. It's a huge problem, which
yeah.
is why I think as a society we need to get to grips with it, and we need to start, especially treating children better and making sure that children have access to a better life from a young age so that they don't develop these illnesses in the first place, which might seem overly idealistic and naive. And yeah, it probably is, but at least it will end some of the problems. It won't end all of the mental health problems, but it will definitely end some of them. Because I know that, other mental problems can come from later trauma in life. But if you've got a good foundation in life, it can help you going forward. You know, if you have a good, sane upbringing, if you have the right nutrition, etc., the right socializing, the love that you need, all these things, that can set you up well in life. Now we have Finding Vitalism here, D Prophet, I believe.
Yes.
Oh no,
Oh,
No,
no.
no,
You had
no,
a
no.
good knife collection back
All
in the day.
creatures are small. The good Lord created them all, so we shouldn't be sorry to see D Prophet. He is one of God's creation. D Prophet,
Can you hear
welcome
me?
to. Yeah, we're going to go on with this first question on the screen, D Prophet. Now the question is, what are some common misconceptions about mental health that you'd like to see changed? And bear in mind, guys, I know we're all jokers and we can clown around, but bear in mind there might be some vulnerable people listening to this. Some people not feeling the best, so please don't be too, jokey tonight. We have to take things a little bit seriously. I'm sorry to say that. I am the biggest clown of them all, so it's hard for me to say that, but. D Prophet, if you could read that question out again and answer it, I'm going to the other room. But guys, if you could have a respectful brevity to your answers, like 2 minutes, I suppose at most, and then when you're finished talking, they finished, and the next person talks. So D Prophet, then Seb, and then Jay. Okay.
So, what are some common misconceptions about mental health that you'd like to see changed? I think that the most common misconception is that people's mental health is an unnatural reaction to the world around them. Like, the misconception is that we're supposed to be mentally healthy in the modern world. And I don't think that those things necessarily are able to jive. I think that most people would be much happier in a society that wasn't so fast paced, that wasn't so grinding in terms of financially. Sure, people were poorer and maybe lived in that type of poverty back in the day, but you didn't have to worry about the modern stresses. I think that the misconception is that you can feel normal in the modern world, and that if you take these drugs or go to therapy, it's going to make you feel more normal or more connected or something. I think that that's a myth. I think that that's bullshit. It's the whole therapy and psychology game and mental health drugs is just a money making machine. Nobody's going to be happy in modernity except the people who are, I don't know, like sharks. I think you've got to be kind of a fucking shark to be happy in modernity, 100%. And the other piece of that is that we're not meant to be, we're not meant to feel well. Shit, did I get cut off? Oh, sorry about that. We're not meant to feel well all the time, and sort of the goal of mental health strives to sort of iron out your feelings. Like DNW said, it's not even to make you feel good. It's to just iron out your feelings so that you're in this state, like this emotional stasis all the time. So the mental health industry doesn't actually have any answers. The best that it can do is numb you. And I think that that's a common misconception, is that you can go and find answers from these therapists, these psychologists, and these psychiatrists who can prescribe you drugs. They don't have the answers. Many of these people need to seek mental health counseling themselves, quote unquote. So I think that mental health issues are valid. I think people are going crazy in our modern society more and more, especially in the absence of God. Whether or not God is real, I think humans need a God in order to not go crazy. And the most common misconception is that the mental health system can help you in any way other than just steamrolling your emotions and turning you into a zombie. That's my opinion. Cheers.
Thank you. That was really. I have to say, I gave you a round of applause. I'll give you another one now. That was very well said.
Thank you.
No, I really enjoyed that from you, Deep Prophet, and thank you very much.
That was very good.
Seb, it's your time on the soapbox, Seb.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
So the misconception is that the mental health experts, the professionals, They have the same ambition for oneself that one has for oneself, and that's not true. They couldn't give a damn if like how one's ego feels, or if one feels like a rock star, or if one feels on top of the world. They don't care about any of that. They don't care about
Seb, who are you
one's.
talking about? Sorry, you talking about psychiatrists?
Yeah.
No, but Seb, I'm sorry. I know that is a generalization. I'm going to have to get a generalization alert button for this. 'Cause- and
Okay. Should I change it?
Yeah,
Okay.
you
You
should
want
say
me to?
some in your
You want to
experience or
implement
some of them because
neurotransmitters?
that's not everyone's experience, brother. And I've met psychiatrists
Okay, okay, let me say might,
who
okay?
care
I
deeply,
said
who
the
care
might
deeply.
word, they might.
All right,
Okay,
okay,
let
brother.
me
All right, all right.
change a word in
Sorry,
there and then it's
I'm going to
correct.
shut up now. Sorry.
A lot of mental health experts, they might not be have the same ambitions one has, like for oneself. Uh, so yeah. So the prophet is right. They don't care about like your power. They don't care about your cognition. All they want to do is to sedate. They're called antidepressants. They are actually there just to sedate, to just slow everything down. There is the prolactin hormone in females. It can produce the breast milk, and um, it can also block dopamine, like antidepressants, antipsychotics. It increases prolactin to sky high amounts. So one so the moral is, if one follows people's advice, they tell you what to do, one becomes the bitch, then in the end one ends up fucked, and it's a very unforgiving world where one's got to fight back.
Okay. Thank you for that, Seb. I appreciate what you said there. Thank you for vocalizing it. JE, no need to wait. It's your turn now.
No, yeah. Surprisingly enough, I actually agree with a lot of what the prophet said. uh, that this. I mean, I would say life across the board, but I would say, yeah, especially this modern world with how it operates. I would say that, yeah, it actually does um exacerbate people's mental health issues, and then people are um basically taught that something is wrong with them for being depressed in the modern world and for being unhappy. But the modern world just um it it is not their fault. The modern world isn't designed to um to make us humans happy, with how fast paced and um cold and isolating it can be. It actually makes sense that we do have an epidemic of mental health issues because our brains aren't, and I guess you can say our bodies too aren't really wired for this modern environment. So I think that depression and anxiety and whatnot are actually a healthy response to a world that humans aren't made for.
Right. Thank you for that,
Right, but besides that,
Jay.
I disagree with him when he says that we need a god for, or
Right.
maybe he's saying that we need the concept of a god so that it can give us a sense of purpose and meaning. But
I mean, feel free to have a
even
bit
that,
of
I
back and
still.
forth about that if you want. D Prophet, would you like to come in there? What did you exactly mean?
Yeah, I just mean that whether or not there is a God or a creator or what shape that entity takes, human beings feel more secure when they believe in a God. They feel more secure in their existence. And I think part of mental health is like this feeling of insecurity and terror that you're like alone in this huge universe and your existence doesn't mean anything. Even if God is a delusion and religion is a lie, it acts as a placebo for the human psyche. You have this reassurance that there's something waiting for you or there's some kind of reward. And I think that what my answer, or one of my answers to the question of why didn't we have a mental health crisis before the 1970s is because people believe in God in the Western world. I think that, and I don't know what the numbers are, but I think that you would find less instances of mental health conditions in a pious society. And that's not to say that their God is real or anything. I just feel like it makes the human heart and brain more secure feeling. And when you have that safe, secure feeling about your whole existence, you're less likely to spiral into depression.
Yep.
Well,
A meaning outside of yourself, a purpose out of yourself. You know, something you can offer your pain to as a sacrifice. I mean, these are all
And,
tried and tested.
and
Yeah.
a being that cares about you, like a being that gives a shit, like somebody out there, not just somebody, the creator of this entire realm knows you personally and cares about you and loves you. Like believing that will change your whole fucking life. And I think that that's one reason why people, and we've had this conversation before. I consider myself a Christian, but I'm not sure if I believe in the Christian God. I think that.
What about Christian Gnosticism? That Jesus came down from the true God to save us from the evil God that created this world.
That's very interesting because I mean it's an interesting concept, and you know it does challenge our way of thinking that there's this God that supposedly loves us and knows each of us and cares about us, but then throws us to the wolves like this. I mean, as a parent, I kind of get it though, because your children can't grow if there's a safety net. So if the world, if God is real and put us here as a test, and the world had a safety net and everything was fair, it would throw the whole system off. Like it has to be a meat grinder. There has to be the downward pressure of, you know, time and resource allocation and physicality for this whole system to work. So like, I don't know. Back to my original point. If you believe that there's a being there that thinks you're special and loves you and put you here for a reason, changes everything psychologically.
D Prophet, Brother Marcus wants to know, what does it mean to be a cultural Christian? What does it mean being a Christian who doesn't believe in the Christian God?
I think that Christian ideals and values have evolved over the ages to create what as close to a perfect society as you can. Everything is based on forgiveness and helping your fellow man, and this fundamental desire to love your enemy and not necessarily aid and abet your enemy, but to understand and have empathy for them, and to take better care of the world. That's a very Christian thing, and I have a difficult time believing in things like Jesus walking on water, or coming back from the dead, or Moses parting the Red Sea and all that stuff. But I know firmly that the Christian moral structure creates the best societies, because we see that.
In your opinion? But,
Yeah, sure. I mean, in my opinion, but also
I mean, well, I mean, there are other countries in the world that don't have a Christian background. Japan, for example, is a first look up. South Korea. I mean, South Korea looks pretty all right.
Yeah, but the Koreans just formed a modern civilization in the last like 50 years. I'm talking about. I mean, you know, you don't need Christianity to form a good civilization. I'm not saying that, but when it comes to basic human fairness and the desire to love one another, forgiveness, these things aren't baked into other religions like they're baked into Christianity.
I'm not going to go into this, but you know, there are aspects of some of the Asian, African cultures that I really like, and they're really cool. And I do have to, you know, say that, you know, it would have been interesting to see how they would have developed without the colonial period, you know, imperialism that caused them to, you know, regress.
Cause them to have food and roads.
Well, you know what I mean. It just would have been interesting to see what would have happened. I know we can talk about this all night because they ifs and buts and all that. We don't actually know, but it would have been interesting.
Well, you can say the same. Sorry.
So I'm just saying some of the philosophy and religions of the East, for example, or of Asia are very, very deep, very enlightening. But obviously, there's huge problems as well. They have the caste system in Hinduism, for example. That there are huge problems. But anyway, I'm just saying something that's neither here nor there because I'm just imagining what could have been, and I don't know. So there's probably no point in talking about it. But yeah,
The true litmus test would be if we could see how Europe turned out without any Christianity. Like if Constantine had never seen the cross on the battlefield and brought Christianity to Rome and therefore Europe at large, like how would Europe have turned out? That would be very interesting. That would be the true litmus test of Christianity, but we'll never know.
what were we before the Christians? I mean, don't forget though, it's not like we didn't leave everything behind. We were still doing sacrifice in a way. We were like burning witches. We were doing public lynchings and stuff. We had the Spanish Inquisition. These are things
Yeah.
that happened in Europe. We had the King Henry VIII sacking all the monasteries, just being a general tyrannical psychopath. We had all the wars as well that were fought under the auspices of being religious wars. So Christianity caused a lot of problems in Europe as well. Anyway, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole because we could talk about it all night. So we've answered the
But before we move on, I just want to really quickly say, it'd be super interesting is to see how the architecture of Europe would have changed because there's a specific Christian influence in a lot of the architecture, especially with the cathedrals and churches and stuff. It'd be really interesting to see how that would have developed without the influence of like Christianity. But anyway, off topic.
Yeah. Another thing, slightly off topic. Well, it isn't really considering what you just said. Was that you were talking about what were we like without Christianity? Now you can look at the Vikings. You can look at the Celts. Now I always thought the Celts were like these peaceful people, making daisy chains and sitting in the long grass, like listening to weirdy beardy druids, talking and listen and like. Maybe like those beautiful sirenic harpists playing melodic music in the background or something. You know what I mean? But I read today that the Wicker Man. You've seen that? You've heard of the horror movie, right?
Yeah, I've seen it.
There was actually apparently these Wicker Men built in Celtic times. I think they were made out of wood, but they could have been made out of metal. I'm not sure. But they were basically huge effigies of a man. And they were cages ultimately, and they used to put like tens or hundreds of people in them and set them on fire. So that was part of the a Celtic tradition, apparently. Although some people say it didn't happen, but there is evidence from the
Wait,
time.
who's playing music?
I think it's Seb.
No, I don't play music like that.
All right.
But I mean,
we'll go on to the next question then.
That's fine.
I'm sorry about that. I'm selling some records, and one of them is the Lord of the Rings box set, and I'm just testing it out in the living room. I didn't realize it was that loud. I'm just making sure there's no skips on it. Really quickly, the Wicker Man. They still do the Wicker Man in New Mexico, DMW. In New Mexico and Santa Fe, every year they do something called Zozobra. They build this huge Wicker Man type thing, cover it in paper mache, and then instead of stuffing people inside of it, they get the entire town of Santa Fe to submit glooms. And glooms are just, you write on a piece of paper something that's been bringing you down in the last year, whether it be a relationship or bills or whatever, or maybe you have like your divorce papers and you're finally divorced, and they collect them all year in these boxes around town. And then they'll put them all in one big box and stuff it inside Zozobra, and then they have a huge celebration at the beginning of September where they set it on fire. It is fucking awesome.
Wow, that sounds like a very cathartic celebration. We'll go on to the next one, the next question. I suppose we'll go in the same order. We started with D Prophet this last time, so we'll start with him again. What role does self-care play in maintaining mental well-being for you? Can you share your go-to routine or something you do to kind of maintain mental well-being?
Hunter S. Thompson referred to this as a mental anchor. He said breakfast was his mental anchor, something that you have to do to start the day off to make your body and brain feel like you've had a clean slate. For me, it's as simple as a nice hot shower. If I can take a nice hot shower in the morning, I feel very, that's maintenance for me. But I think that self-care it does play a certain part in mental health because you're taking care of your body and your body wants to feel good. But your self care has to you have to focus on getting the anger out of your heart. I keep going back to this more and more because I feel it more and more in my own life. Like this evil that resides in all of us, it feeds off of anger, and it perishes with love. And you can do your self-care routine. You can have your mental anger, eat breakfast, take a hot shower, beat off into your favorite sock or whatever. But if you're walking around with that anger and resentment in your heart, it's not going to do any good long term. It's just a salve. So I think that
How do you get rid of the anger then, D-Prophet?
You have to be very wary of your thoughts. Like you can't get rid of the anger. You can just be aware of it and sort of put it in a box and step outside of it. The anger is going to flare up, but you have to step outside of it and be aware of it. And that is how you can actually.
Basically, it's intellectualizing your emotions and becoming more self-aware that these feelings are overriding your thoughts.
Yeah, they're not. And
you got to try and make it the other way around. You've got to try and control your emotions with your thoughts.
Even many of your thoughts too, because I think a lot of your thoughts are lies that are dressed up in your own voice. I stopped short at calling them demons because that's more religious and that turns people off. But a lot of your thoughts in your head are lies you're telling yourself. They're not you. Like you're being tricked by something else, I think. And
yeah, I mean this is a very good point. It's not just about feelings; it is about thoughts as well. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg, the thought or the feeling or the thought. But you do have to be wary of both. So it's not just enough to be wary of how you feel. You've got to be wary of what you're thinking as well. And this is why it's critically important to become self-aware, enlightened as to what is right for you. But also, you're talking about religiosity and stuff. I think if one thing can be garnered from it, it's the golden rule of, treating others as you'd like to be treated, and trying not to be a hypocrite to others, like treating them in a way you wouldn't want to be treated. I think if you can carry yourself like that, as hard as it is, by the way, it's an extremely hard thing to do. It will help you. But also, you've also got to realize you're facing someone when you're dealing with them who you'd be them if you were them. And what I mean by that is they didn't choose to be who they are. So they might be doing things that aggravate you, annoy you. They might be being mean, whatever. But that's a them problem. It might be affecting you, okay? But the truth is, if they were fully developed, consciousness in terms of good in its effect, they wouldn't be doing something to purposefully aggravate you, or they wouldn't be aggravating you with something that is a form of ignorance on their behalf. So yeah, just something I thought I'd say if it made any sense. I don't know if that made sense to you, Prophet.
No, it does, and that's that's why I always go to the forgiveness bit too, because that is the key. Like whether or not you believe in predestiny or what do you call it? The dominoes falling, determinism.
Determinism, yeah.
Whether or not you believe in that, it goes back to my campsite rule thing. Like you leave the place in better condition than you found it, and we try to do that with people too, and that requires forgiveness because we're all in a fallen state. We're all evil-hearted and self-serving, and we don't know why we're here, and we're just surviving day to day, and we make mistakes and we get angry, and so forgiveness is key.
Yeah, and one thing I will say that's just come to me now. I mean, I was going to make a little jokey picture today on my post, just like loads of people, like a massive crowd, like an innumerable amount of people, so many people in the crowd you couldn't fathom how many there were. They're all pointing at each other and they're all shouting evil. And yeah, it's true. We are all evil. We all have evil within us. We all do things that are bad, and we have been an arsehole to somebody. We've potentially ruined other people's lives unbeknownst to ourselves, at some point, maybe even unbeknownst to them. Maybe we did something that set off a domino that caused someone problems, and we might not have meant it, but maybe it did. So we are all, unfortunately, evil, but it is very important to look for the good in others as well, and to try and, when you're dealing with people who you might see as evil, the problem is when you fight fire with fire. So when you're shouting, hollering at them, calling them a bastard and this and that, I mean, what's going to happen? Their evil nature is going to react back, because ultimately, from first instance, they don't appear to be an enlightened being. So they're not trying to be the best behaved or thoughtful person in the world. So they're not going to have the intellectual armory to react to you in a loving or good way. So they're going to react with fire and fury. So when you meet someone who is an arsehole, and this is very difficult, and I don't quite know how to do this, but I think it could be an important thing, that to try and find the good in them somehow and draw it out. Now, I don't know. I don't think that's an easy task, and it is just coming to me. I've said this before, but I do believe there is good in everybody. It's a horrible thing to say sometimes, because some people appear 100% evil. But if you look at it from a grown-up perspective, they're just a little child that got fucked up by their biology, or by the parenting they had, or the society that they experienced as a youngster. Maybe they are just a goodness that never got released, and instead got corrupted by an enshellment of evil. Anyway, that just came out. I don't know if that made any sense. What do you think?
I think it's even worse than that. I think that we start off evil. I think that if you leave a child, if you were to leave a child by themselves and they were able to survive until the age of 10, you would have the most evil son of a bitch that you've ever seen in your life, because they would have only ever followed their nature and their instinct. Your instinct is just self-serving. It takes a lot of discipline to hammer children into good people. That's why parenting is so integral. That's why people who don't have parents have a really hard time dealing with their issues later on, because they haven't had that guidance, they haven't had the discipline, they haven't had structure and routine, and that's what builds a good human being. And I think it's actually kind of the opposite, DNW. I think, and I've told my son's 5 now, he's starting to ask some really fucking good questions.
Right.
And he was asking me about evil, because he sees in cartoons there's good and there's evil. What's that?
Yeah.
And well, I said, look, evil is in everybody. It's a seed that grows in your heart. You can water that seed or not, and you have to fight to maintain goodness. He's too young to understand entropy, but it really goes back to that it's the universe tends toward this chaotic neutral, and in order to build any good, you have to expend so much energy, and that goes for people too, because our hearts are just as chaotic as the rest of the universe. It just wants and wants and wants and will kill to get what it wants. And you have to hammer that out of people. You have to hammer goodness into them. So that, again, going back to the importance of religion.
It's interesting what you say, because a friend of mine was talking about his children and just children in general, and he was saying we are like little psychopaths when we're kids, and there are different stages we go through in terms of thinking about our effects on others. Sometimes, for example, we're very selfish and we just want food, attention, whatever. Other times we can be bullies, or can not realize the effect of our words and actions on others, or even get merriment from what we view as something that's funny, but it's hurtful towards others. But that does change with age, and this is part of nature, and it's not a good thing, but it is a natural thing that the human brain takes a while to develop. Okay, takes a long time to develop, actually, out of all the other species. And I'm talking about outside of the womb. It takes years, and 25 years apparently, or 30 perhaps even. And given that this is the case, it does show the horrible side of Mother Nature, that when we're kind of underdeveloped, we're more likely to do horrible things to each other, to say horrible things to each other. And maybe that is Mother Nature's way, cruel way, of weeding out the species. Now, if we are to be honest, we wouldn't want any of our loved ones to be on the brunt end of it. So as a species, we do have to kind of try and not only rise above our evil nature individually, but we have to question how we proceed, knowing that people are shaped by their experiences in an age when their brain is being developed. And, as Seb has said, synaptic pruning can mean that the brain can be altered to a state of being that means that person will be stuck in a mode of being, a mode of experiencing reality that is problematic for them. But also, we have to think about the effects of bullying, of over the top kind of influence of negative influence from other peers, young peers. And I think one of the problems we have in society, and I don't know if anyone will agree with me on this one, is maybe we allow children, teenagers, etc., to be in the company solely of other children, teenagers too much. Because I was thinking about this before, in the past, you as a boy or as a daughter, you would have been with your mum or your dad, right, from a young age, and you'd have been learning a craft or how to work. And yeah, you would have been hanging out with kids and stuff, but there would have been an adult around most of the time. I would envisage to discipline and to morally chastise you if you were doing something wrong. But what happened in modern society when schooling began is you were thrown into this melting pot of different behavioral disorders, different people with different stages of pubescent development and hormonal fluctuations and mental problems or whatever. And you spend a lot of your time around these people in the playground and such. And unfortunately, teachers nowadays are not very good at disciplining children. They don't have much way of. I don't know how you discipline a boisterous teenager. It's without corporal punishment. I'm not pro corporal punishment. I'm just saying maybe we've got too many kids to adults in a ratio in a classroom, and maybe, just maybe, allowing people to be shaped by their peers as teenagers is a bad idea. Maybe we need to think about reducing the effect of people who don't know what's going on affecting our children or teenagers or whatever. What do you think of that as a father, D Prophet?
Well, I mean, this idea of the rebellious teenager, I mean, it's always been a thing, but it hasn't been packaged and sold back to teenagers until basically the modern recording industry, post rock and roll. You have a really good point about them spending time only in their own age cohorts along with adults that can't control them. Yeah, they get the fuck out of hand because honestly, children do need a little corporal punishment, and it sucks. But the adage of forging a piece of steel is true. You gotta fucking beat it a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And especially as teenagers, I mean, you get to a point. I got
beaten and it never did me any harm. But yeah, sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry. No jokes. But go ahead.
No jokes, DNW. No, but yeah, like children need discipline, and discipline requires authority, and authority honestly requires the threat of violence. Not even the actual violence, just the promise that it could happen if you get out of hand. And that's just the brutal, grim reality of our world. And we've lost that with this like Dr. Spock parenting bullshit where the kid gets to choose their own lunch. And it's just kind of created a catastrophe in the Western world. Look at the quality of human that we have now, especially in America. Jesus. I mean, throw all the extra calories and seed oils on top of it and look at the creature that you get. But look, I have to drop because I need to use my phone to do all the take all these pictures and get all this stuff listed on eBay. So I'll be in the chat. But thank you for letting me stop in.
Well, no, thank you for coming on. It was great to hear your views. Thank you, D Prophet.
Thanks, guys.
Seb just got back. All right, so we'll let JE answer the question that's below there, and then Seb, you can come in. JE, what role does self-care play in maintaining mental well-being for you? Can you share your go-to routine if you have one, or something perhaps that you're trying to establish? JE, you're muted actually. Seb?
Yeah, sorry. My
sorry, JE, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask this question because I don't really have a proper self care routine, to be honest.
Is it something
But
you've
one
thought
thing
about?
I am, um, yeah, but I guess if there was one that I'm trying to incorporate it, I guess it would be meditation, and I guess also, as the prophet said, like like being aware of my thoughts but not identifying with them. Because I kind of agree with what he said when he said that you shouldn't believe every thought you have because most of it isn't yours or whatever, or it's coming from another dark place. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, and I've seen some videos on YouTube where people suggest that whenever you're thinking, you're actually listening to thoughts that come from somewhere else. You're not actually creating any thoughts, and I found that to be interesting. So like
Can
you
you say
shouldn't
that again,
believe or
just say?
identify with every thought you have. Huh?
Can, can you say that again? I just missed a bit before you said you shouldn't believe or identify with every thought you had. You said something that you found interesting. What was it?
No, yeah, I was saying that I've seen a few videos on YouTube where people suggest that
We're losing you.
or you're not hearing
Hey,
me?
Jay. Yeah, well, you're back now. You're back now. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that on YouTube, right? I've seen some videos where people suggest that whenever um you identify with your thoughts or whatever, you're actually like you're listening to thoughts. You're not actually creating them. And so that to me, suggests that you shouldn't believe every thought that you think because most of
Oh,
them are very
absolutely.
well
I
coming
mean,
from a negative place.
that's a fantastic addition to the conversation. Being wary of your thoughts, not identifying with all of them, not attaching yourself to all of them. Now, Jay, how what's the advice? How do you do that? How do you like maybe detach or not identify with thoughts that aren't helpful to you? And how do you sort them out? How do you sift through them? What do you think is the criteria necessary to establish to discern whether something is affecting you, your negative health, sorry, your mental health negatively or positively? Or, and also one critical question, other than that, but sometimes you do need to go through a little bit of pain to get somewhere better. So how do you know it's worth, for example, chasing or looking at your shadow, the darker thoughts, to see where they're coming from, so that you can perhaps fix that part of you or identify the part of your experience that is causing you to feel that way, and do something about it. I mean, what advice do you have for challenging your own thoughts and not identifying with them all the time, etc., and maybe identifying with them when necessary, where necessary? What's your view on it so far?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. I guess I would say that if you have like any thoughts um where your thoughts are very where you have a very negative self image where you're talking down on yourself and saying very negative things about yourself, like about your looks or your intelligence or your worth. I think you should probably, those are the type of thoughts you should detach from, or like even other people, like um, where you project your insecurities onto other people, and you think negative thoughts about other people that you usually think about yourself. I feel like that's a sign that you should, distance yourself from those thoughts and detach from those thoughts. I guess the way
Okay,
to do it is to just, yeah, sit in silence and I guess meditate in a sense, and sit in silence if you can or whenever you can, and like just watch your thoughts pass by without identifying with them or um, attaching yourself to them. Just watch them go by in your mind and
hmm.
don't expend any energy trying to understand them or fight them. Just let them come and go.
Let
Essentially.
them come and go. And if they are traumatizing you, let them come and go until something happens in your life that breaks up your thoughts, perhaps. Because
Yeah.
you can't fix everything in this reality, and sometimes we do have thoughts that are just overwhelmingly negative, and there isn't any good answer. So it's just a
Yeah.
matter of letting your experience shift to bring in new thoughts into your mind. Sometimes you have to take
Mm-hmm.
proactive stance and do things for that to happen. So maybe meditation might work. You might be able to do it that way, or else you might benefit from just going for a walk, or you know, um, switching on a comedy show or something. Something anything that will just break you out of that moment, perhaps. But you have to be
Yeah.
careful doing
Mm-hmm.
that all the time, I would say, because that would be probably negative in its effect to your life if you're trying to escape all the time from your thoughts. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. I guess so. You can. It wouldn't be practical to do it like at work when you're supposed to
No.
be
I
focusing.
suppose this
So
is where that the serenity prayer the alcoholics and the drug addicts say. I can't remember it exactly, but it's something
yeah. I
like
know it. Yeah.
what do you know? Can you tell us it? Or do you know the gist of it?
Um. I know bits and pieces of it. It goes something like, um, give me the strength to accept the things I can't change, and the I think something like a wisdom to know the difference between. I know what it is, but yeah, it's I can only remember bits and pieces of it, but it essentially goes asking
I'll look
God
it up.
to like help
I'll look it
direct.
up. I'll look it up
Okay.
because that this way we won't be accused of misquoting what is a helpful
Yeah.
prayer or way of thinking. It doesn't necessarily you don't have to be religious to benefit from its message. Uh, so it is the Serenity Prayer is now they say God because it is a Christian prayer. They say God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change. It doesn't have to be God. You could
Mhm.
just be saying like I want to be able to accept things I cannot change, uh, and I want the
Mhm.
courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the
Right.
difference.
Yeah.
Living one
Mhm.
day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace. And then it goes on in a Christian way, taking as he did the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. I mean, for me, the most beneficial part of that is grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's kind of what you have to concentrate your own thoughts on when you're having problematic ones. This thought something
Mhm.
that I can do anything about, and if it's not, well, then you have to let it go and think about something more practical or more tangible that you could utilize, or you could do something with. So anyway, we'll go on to Seb, who's been patient. Who's been patiently waiting in the wings. Seb, thank you very much for your patience. You've had a lot of time to think now, I'm sure, about this question. What role does self-care play in maintaining mental well-being for you? Can you share your
Yeah.
go-to routine?
Yeah.
Wait, is
So
someone playing
first of
music?
all,
No.
uh, so first of all, when I wake up, the very first thing I do is that I put on brainwave entrainment, and then immediately after, that's the first thing I
What
do.
is that? Sorry, what is that? Brainwave training. What's that?
Brainwave entrainment.
Brainwave entrainment. Can you tell us what that is? So I suppose you
No,
probably never.
I refuse.
Is it that binaural beats thing that you utilize
No,
sometimes?
I don't. I'm going to just mention it on a surface level, since it's
Okay,
not
so
really
it's
what
some
it is.
esoteric knowledge that Seb has his uh, has the ability to utilize in the morning. So it's called brainwave entrainment. Now, look up
Yeah,
that
that's
at your peril. I don't know what it
yeah,
is,
but
but I
I'm not
presume
going
it's
to
something to
mention it
binaural
more or talk
beats.
about it. I know people. I mean, people. There are stuff people are interested in, and it's not brainwave entrainment. If they just don't have an interest in it, it will sound like I'm talking about railway tracks or something. It's just not something people are interested in hearing, and I have to respect that. So I'm just going to casually just mention it, and that's all.
Okay.
So and then and then immediately after that, I go and drink water. I drink several glasses of water. I guess, and I to just hydrate myself, right?
Right.
And I guess the brainwave entrainment is just playing for the whole day, really. And and then I go about and my stuff and do some things. I use ChatGPT to read about stuff that I would find useful, some of my interests.
Right.
So I practice. I try to avoid negative thinking. So if I start thinking negatively about things, then I'll tell myself stop. Don't think about it.
Okay.
Uh, and and I try to at least chat to one person a day.
At least one person a day. And how do you choose those people? Thanks to Brother Marcus, who shared the
Uh,
definition of brainwave entrainment in chat there. Seb, how you said you try to speak to at least one person every day. How do you choose that person?
how do I choose? Okay, so I have this thing, like a whole system for it, where I have a dice, and the number represents like a friend, right? And I'm kidding, like I don't know. I just do it intuitively. I don't think about it.
Now, when you say you try to talk to one person every day, do you mean in person or through like the internet or on the phone? What do you mean by
How the hell am I supposed to find a person in real life? Like, I don't bother with that. Where am I supposed to meet us in real life? People
okay,
anyway.
well,
I mean, on the
that's
internet.
something I'm sorry to tell you, that's something maybe to think about because I read recently. Now you can look this up using Google or your preferred search engine. Now, apparently, if you those people who are either overly engaged and very extroverted on social media, yeah, or people who are on the other side passively engaged. So there's two ways. These are the two ways that social media can be problematic. If you're on it too much, right, and you're shouting into the social media void, as it were, too much, all right, that can be a sign that you have problems. But equally, being too passively accepting of social media and not reacting to it and not interacting with others, that can also be a sign. Or that can also cause you mental distress. Sorry, these things can cause people mental distress. Apparently, that's what the article was saying. Uh,
Yeah.
the common denominator was obviously social media. Now, I do believe social media can cause huge problems for people, but I also believe it can be a tool to help people and to enlighten them as to what is good for them and to make friends. Seb, is it fair to say that most of your conversations, friendships occur online these days?
Yeah. Let's say I went and tried to talk to someone in real life, like I go and talk to someone, and you know how it is, right? Like, how's the weather? Like, do you see that sky over there? Do you see that branch? Yeah, there's nothing to talk about. I mean, they talk about it like it's some special thing, like one gets something really special out of talking to someone in real life, but just talk about a little branch or a sky or just some small talk.
Right.
And
Yeah.
anyway,
I mean,
and they're
everyone's
just gonna
different.
ignore me
Everyone's
anyway.
different.
So what's the point? I don't
I
get
hear what I
anything
hear what
out
you're
of them.
saying. I hear what you're saying, sir. And I'd say everyone's different. Now, personally, I do like to go out to. I don't drink alcohol, but I still go to the pub, and I talk to friends and I talk to even randomers, like because the pubs I go to, you could just talk to whoever's there. It's not like there's in London anyway. We don't really have well, some bars do, but a lot of the places don't have a social etiquette that you have to like just stick to yourself or your immediate companions. You can talk to others as well. So yeah, you can have a laugh. You can have interesting conversations with people. Now I don't smoke either, but if you do smoke, I suppose it's easier because you can go out to the smoking section. It's a bit easier. But if you hang around the bar like a barfly, you can have a little chat to people. That can be good. I'd say if you go with the right people, friends, etc., that can be good as well. That's what I like to do. I like to organize it so that I meet people there. I have a list of friends on my phone that they frequent it, every week. So I know that, are you there tonight? I'm going there, such and such a night. See you then. That kind of thing. That I find that beneficial, and I mean, I find it rewarding personally. You have a laugh, and I won't say it's always stress free because human nature is such that people can be problematic. Even people you frequently meet can have sides to them that you don't particularly like. So it is a difficult, but I would say overall it's a positive. Okay, overall. Second place I like to go sometimes is a lot actually is cafes. So like you can go there for your I like to have a red bush tea with like almond milk or chai latte with soya milk. And you can sit in there, and sometimes there's like really interesting people reading books, writers, artistic people, scientifically minded people, politically minded people, philosophical people. You got to be careful of those, and even religious people, whatever. There's just and sometimes there's nice people. So I wouldn't write off all in-person meetings, Seb. Sometimes I think you just got to test the waters a little bit, and see what's out there. And so Brother Marcus has come on with a comment here that says the people behind the screen and keyboard are real people, the same people in the real world. The point is to find those people also offline and spend time with them. So yeah, so that's true. I mean, you can meet people that you talk to online in
Yeah,
person as
that's
well.
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I see a pattern. Every time I talk to someone in real life, they just talk about like a
Small talk,
dog
small
or a
talk.
cat or a
Yeah,
branch or some piece on the ground,
I
right?
understand what you're saying. So
Every
yeah, so
single
what
time.
I hear what you're saying, Seb. Now, Brother Marcus says you can find your little collection of people that you talk to online, but you can also, I hate to use the word collect, but you can also collect people in real
Yeah,
life.
but yeah,
I
but
mean, you don't have to,
every time,
you don't have to fall in, you don't have to become enamored with everybody you meet. You know, all I'm saying to you, Steph, is don't write off. I don't know what type of person you're speaking to, but sometimes you can meet an 80-year-old person who has a lot to say and a great character, and
no,
it's
they
fun.
don't. Every time I talk to someone in real life, they always mention something that's like irrelevant. They talk about like dog piss and a little
Fair
puddle.
enough, Seb. Fair enough, Seb.
Right?
And I'm not being. I hope I'm not coming across as patronising because one problem is, Seb, is perhaps where we live can have have an effect. So if we live in a very small, I suppose, village, or we live in a rural area, or we live in a part of town where maybe people don't go out much, or when they do go out, it's maybe it's a bit grim in some ways, and people have their own problems like drugs and alcohol. Maybe it's also the other way because sometimes in the very posh areas, people have these gated communities and they don't mix. So in terms of socializing, it's about finding the happy medium somewhere you can hang out and meet people, but those people are open to the conversations and socializing because that's what they're in it for too. So if you go to a place that's too posh, they might be a bit snotty, a bit snobby. not fun to talk to. If you go to a place that's too grim in some way or other, well, they might have their own problems. Maybe they might be antisocial. Maybe they might be off their nut on drugs or drink or craving their next fix. So I'm not saying to avoid those people. I'm just saying, in terms of a conversation, it might not be the best place to go. So, have you ever tried frequenting like cafes in your locality or in
No,
the city near
and
you?
why? Like, let's say I go up there, right?
Hmm?
Like they're going to see someone who has that has somewhat of a dark skin or something, and then they're going to be. I mean, so they might have some racist reaction or something, right?
I'm
This
sorry to hear that.
person.
And is that in your experience? Is that a kind of so you've obviously said on this show before you're mixed race in some way.
Yeah, yeah. So
Uh,
not true cynic, and I believe, when I talk to someone, I assume that they are that I just assume
do
if
you
I
do you, do you think it's possibly where you're living? Maybe it's a bit more rural. I don't know, backward. Maybe they haven't met many people
no,
in the
it's
places.
just every time I mean I talk to people, they
Right,
always talk about like a literal a dog piss in a
right. They,
puddle of
they talk
blood.
about they engage in small talk. I understand.
No,
Uh,
they no, that would be giving them too much credit. They talk about
hmm,
dog piss in
fair enough.
in a puddle of mud.
Okay.
That's the topic. Then no, and
Seb,
so I'm a true
Seb.
cynic.
I'm asking you a question here. You noted that you feel like sometimes they might have a racist impression towards you.
Yeah.
Is this a kind of overtly obvious thing in all age groups, or do you find the younger people are more open to not being so horrible to you?
No,
I mean,
I
like
think
people.
I mean, when I studied and I went to the different educational systems, I saw people with some sort of different ethnic background hang around together because there's like this ethnic thing going on, and
Mhm.
like if I go and if I go and talk to someone, due to how I look, they're going to assume I'm a Muslim, even though I'm not. They're just going to assume that based on how I look, and they're
And
just going to.
have you ever thought of strategies like to break the ice or
No,
try and
I
do? I know.
don't want to. Why would
Yeah.
I talk to them? They just talk about like a dog piss in a puddle of mud. That's all.
Have you ever thought of moving, Seb?
No,
Hmm.
why would
Okay.
I do that? It's like people are
Jay,
just.
I'm going to ask Jay to come in here. Jay, have you got any advice or thoughts on Seb, whether he should try and get out there and socialize, or do you think he's okay as he is? I mean, Seb, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Some people find a very good life is to be a hermit and to avoid people. So I'm not going to tell you you're right or wrong. I'm just giving my opinions on what I like to do. But I appreciate that everyone is different, and for some people, a life of hermitude and quiet introspection in their own company is the best way forward, and that's what they enjoy doing. And if it doesn't affect them negatively, more power to them. So, Jay, would you like to say anything at this juncture?
I mean, yeah, like you said, I think it's up to each person to figure out what is best for them, you know. And so, if Seb has had negative experiences with in real life interactions, well, then maybe it is a sign that he should live a life of quiet introspection, you know. Or maybe it's just the environment that he's in. Maybe he needs to move to a different environment and be around different people.
Mm. Okay, guys, we will move on. Thank you, Seb, for sharing that. I mean, I sympathise with you, because it's a very terrible thing, and I like to think it's not the case anymore. But unfortunately, it does seem that there is still this tendency for humans to be mean to outsiders or to treat them differently. When I say outsiders, I mean people who are superficially different to them, okay, in some way or other, who perhaps came to an area recently themselves or their family, who have different cultural background, different ethnic background, whatever it may be. And I've experienced this myself in my life. And yeah, people can be very cliquey and it's a very, very horrible thing to be on the brunt end of. Now, it's a crazy situation because they say that the higher in serotonin you are, the more likely you are to be dismissive of others. Okay, and so sometimes what you get in groups is people are enjoying the bonhomie of being part of a team, being part of a clan, being part of a group, and they are enjoying and they're high in serotonin, so they're happy.
Wasn't it
You know,
oxytocin
yeah,
you mentioned
oxytocin.
last
Yeah,
time?
yeah, oxytocin. Sorry, yeah, oxytocin. So they're feeling loved, they're feeling happy, and when they're happy, they're not mindful of suffering. So because they don't, then perhaps it's not on their agenda. It's not what they're feeling, and so they are the types of people who are more likely to be cutting towards outsiders. And there is unfortunately evolutionary basis for this, and it is unfortunately to keep away competition, and it's not nice, it's horrible, but again, this is another example of human nature rearing its monstrous head, and it's something to be aware of in ourselves, that be thoughtful towards people who are different in some way or coming from different backgrounds, uh, you know because that's just the humane thing to do. That could be you one day. It was definitely your ancestors once at one point. Don't be an arsehole. Don't be someone you wouldn't want to be on the brunt end of. So we go on to another question, I suppose. Question is, Jay, go ahead. How can we break the stigma around mental health and encourage more open conversations? Or do you think there's a need for that?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. I guess it's just to be more. People just need to be more open and receptive to having these conversations. That's basically what it is. We just need to be more compassionate and empathetic, and realize that, as you've said a lot of times before, that no one chooses to become who they are. No one chooses to become mentally ill. It's just that they had a set of conditions, from their biology to their upbringing to um you know the the childhood they had, and the people they were surrounded by, that caused them to be mentally ill. So you can't you can't blame people for being who they are, and we need to realize that any one of us could have been them, or could be mentally ill. So, like, we need to be more willing to place ourselves in other people's shoes, and realize that any one of us can be mentally ill, and that we need to take care of our fellow man, and we need to realize that, like, mental health issues are something that's endemic and almost intrinsic to the human experience, and so it affects all of us. Even if we ourselves are mentally ill, it will affect us in some way indirectly, from you know whether it's someone we care about, like a family or friend, being mentally ill, or some random stranger, who causes harm to someone else. And so it is something that we should take seriously, and um, we should be more open to discussing.
Okay, very well put. P says
Yeah.
mental illness is relative. She says her shrink said to her, "You're not mentally ill. You're just very, very depressed." And this was in a psych ward, apparently. Yeah. But we can't say that depression isn't a mental illness. I mean, some people like to romanticize depression, or they like to belittle it as in it's just, oh, you're just a little sad, or you're just being a bit negative. You can pull your socks up. It is actually an illness. I mean, it's scientifically proven that it's a deficit in the brain in terms of chemistry. There's some imbalance. An
Um,
overload of there's an under uh, um, occurrence of serotonin, perhaps dopamine, whatever it may be.
yeah.
Some neurotransmitter isn't doing its job to the level to be expected. So yeah, it is an illness, but it's
But
not
can I
something to be.
say something very quickly? Just I want
Yeah,
to
yeah, it's your
mention
turn to
something.
Seb. It's your turn to talk now. So you can mention something, and then can you please read out the question again and then answer it?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to just mention something quickly and let you speak again. But do you want me to speak now? Okay. How can we break the stigma
Yes.
around mental health and encourage more open conversations? I mean, the way I see it, the way, I mean, it seems like very futile. One spreads awareness of mental health. What does it do in the end? People take drugs. People take antidepressants. So what's the point about spreading awareness? What the hell would a mental health awareness day do in the end? It would just make people take crappy drugs that gives them anhedonia and anxiety. So I think people that's something people. I mean, I'm not sure if I see even the utility of talking more openly about it, given how horrible the mental health system is.
Yeah, if I could just step in then just say, because I want to challenge you on that one. Basically, Seb, whilst I understand where you're coming from, that medicine can fuck people up, by talking about it, by putting it on the agenda in public discussions, I would say you're showing people that it's something to be taken seriously, and hopefully governments, corporations, individuals will start thinking about it, and thinking about how to solve the many problems it causes, for an individual and for society as a whole. And you mentioned that they might put people on medication. That's really bad. That's true. But if you vocalize that that is the fact, Seb, and that does happen, maybe people will start taking it seriously and they will start thinking about, well, how can we provide a solution that doesn't cause people to become medicated zombies, feeling no emotions, and having a kind of problematic experience. So yeah, it's. I'm just putting that there, said just to challenge you a little bit in good spirits. Okay.
I I'm a true cynic. I mean, what's in it for them anyway? They want to sedate people cheaply and quickly. Why would they care, right? People have done like the Inquisitions. They've burned people alive. Why would they care? They just want to calm people down. That's all they ever wanted. But
Okay,
I
Seb.
mean, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they'll come around. But I don't think they'll
All
do
right.
it anytime soon.
By the way, guys, if anybody wants to come on the stream, there are more seats, obviously. The seats are available here and waiting. There's a nice
Yeah,
cushion on them for your derriere,
yeah.
so don't be frightened. Uh, we will go on to another question in a moment when I've just typed out the link in the live chat. The link is in the live chat now. Not that it wasn't already pinned already, but there you go. It's there again. So zero excuses. If you're able to come on here, you can come on. We will go back to the questions. I mean, we've kind of answered this already about routine, but it's. I mean, maybe something else will come up. JE, in your opinion, what's one small daily habit that can make a big difference to our mental health? One small daily habit.
I guess I would say getting active and exercising. I think that can help to improve your mental health because um it releases chemicals like serotonin and even dopamine, which are feel good hormones, which can make you feel better. So yeah, I would say getting active and um, getting some exercise in can make you feel better because you're moving your body and um, you're not sitting down in one place, being overwhelmed by your thoughts, and so I would say getting exercise can definitely help to improve your mental health.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Seb, one small daily habit that can make a big difference to our mental health, a positive difference, that is?
Um, I mean, I could. So sometimes I like to set up a period where I try to do some active thinking, where I intentionally think in a very deliberate way about things while I take a walk, and I also in the day I try to steer my thoughts so they aren't that negative. Like I question myself, why the hell would I think about death? Why now? Why would I think about sickness? Why now?
Okay,
And I
yeah.
constantly interrupt my not constantly, but I tend to interrupt
You try to
myself
manage
sometimes
your thoughts.
if I'm ruminating too much, and then
That's
I
a
steer
very
my thoughts.
that's a very wise strategy, Seb, and I definitely try to do that as well. Brother Marcus mentioned, you both mentioned exercise. Jay mentioned exercise. Seb mentioned walking as well. And Brother Marcus says that a daily morning walk is something that he finds helpful. And yeah, I definitely find walking something that's helpful. I used to walk, before I had a dog, I used to walk a minimum of 5 miles a day, usually to go and see, usually with something halfway. So to do something like go to meet some friends or a cafe, to do something as part of the walking, and then walk home afterwards. Also, yeah, now I have to walk a lot because I have the dog for, well, it's over a year now, year and a bit. And I would say for me, let's go. What's the question here? Daily habit. I would say one daily habit for me now is we lost Jay, by the way. Jay, come back if you want. We'd love to have you. I would say one daily habit for me is being mindful of what I'm eating. Okay, my mood is intrinsically linked to my food, and if I eat the wrong food, it can tip me over the edge in like a depressive thoughts, uh, lethargy, you know, possible self-loathing, and just the energy factor, not feeling the best. So I'm mindful of my sugar intake. I'm mindful of. I know Noodles won't like that because he's always got on about how sugar is good for you. But in my experience, too much, I would say refined sugar, by the way. I eat fruit, but refined sugar definitely something I steer clear of. Um, and I think too cloggy, too kind of heavy, and I don't eat gluten either. That kind of sets me off in my mood. So yeah, I'm mindful of what I eat, and also I'm trying to be more mindful of caffeine, although I am a caffeine fiend. But what I have started doing is reducing my. Oh no, I kind of leave caffeine to my mornings, and then at night time, if I am at home and I want to brew, I, I kind of stick to Red Bush tea, which is like, it's nice. I like the taste of it, but it's got no caffeine in it. So that's kind of what I do is watch what I put in my gob, because food does affect your mood. And obviously, yeah, the exercise is beneficial as well. I will say one other thing, one small daily habit that can make a big difference to our mental health. I would say having friends you can have a laugh with, you can ring up and have a laugh with. Um, that's good for you. So that's a good thing to have. Also, it's good. So one daily habit you can have for a friend, if you want to help them, is to ring them up, make them laugh, and just have a kind of stress, kind of a conversation that isn't that stressful, and just a bit of a laugh. Maybe talk about current affairs, but not in a kind of too deep a level, but just in a kind of a manner where you're not challenging them too much, but you're keeping it a little bit light-hearted, but still trying to learn and develop together at the same time. So. Oh, sorry, Brother Marcus is giving IT help desk advice to Chickpea, I believe. That's not for me, is it? He says
Mm.
something about, can you close the tab and only keep... I think he's talking to Chickpea. So, Brother Marcus is the IT help desk for Chickpea there. That's nice. And Diane Tenatler says something about not getting along with technology. All right. Well, we've exhausted that question, I suppose. We'll go on to the next one. Yeah, we'll go with Seb first this time. Seb, can you share a lesson you've learned from a difficult mental health experience, and how did it shape you?
Well, I guess the greatest lesson is that, I mean, it really is that no, but I mean, virtually no one wants to wants me to actually upregulate my receptors. They don't want me to increase in sensitivity of receptors. Yeah, so I mean, if there's a lesson, it is to not take the advice other people give. I mean, but what happens in the end when one takes the advice other people give? It applies to everything in life. Let's say one is a martial artist, and the coach says hands up. But the problem with that is that it would greatly reduce the mobility. One wouldn't be able to move as efficiently, and one would be trapped. So, I mean, what good does it do to be a little bitch and do what the coach says? The coach is the one fighting. You are the one fighting, right? And let's say uh, one is depressed or something, and they say you have to seek like advice from a psychiatrist, but they will just say take an SSRI. They say that indiscriminately, almost, no matter who the person is. The only exception is like that the depressed person sometimes can request something else, but generally they just hand out like SSRIs or something. But when one takes that advice, one just ends up fucked.
Hmm.
One ends up not feeling a lot of things, and that's a very difficult thing to recover from. And lastly, people say you are never going to amount to anything. They have very little beliefs in people's abilities. If one hasn't proven what one is capable of, then they have very little belief. Who's to say I can't be the champion of the world? Who's to say like I can't defeat the great warriors? I can take it up on me, and I can be the one who challenges these preconceived notions. I'm going to grow
Absolutely.
in strength.
Absolutely. All right, Seb. Thank you for that. Jay, can you share a lesson? You don't have to, by the way. By the way, you're under no obligation to fucking say anything or answer any questions here. Um, Jay, can you share a lesson you've learned from a difficult mental health experience? How did it shape you?
Um, well, I guess one would be being, I guess, being depressed, I guess, and realizing that maybe I do have a bit more strength than I realized because I had to deal with it on my own without any help from anyone. So, going through a sort of a dark night of a soul, which I am still going through
Yeah.
to a certain extent, um, by myself without any help. That showed me that maybe I do have a bit more resilience than I
Right.
give myself credit for. So I guess that's at least one positive thing I can take away from being depressed. I guess. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll say I'll answer this, then we'll go to Chickpea. A lesson that I've learned from a difficult mental health experience. How did it shape you? I would say at my lowest, when I was going through the most depressive episodes of my life, I felt completely alone. Okay, as in my parents, my family didn't talk to me, didn't know what was wrong with me, didn't provide any advice or support. I would say, in actual fact, it was the opposite. They were aggravating me when they spoke to me. Like my dad, for example, he was never depressed in his life. He's a very kind of stoic, macho dude, and he would do the opposite. He, instead of like being concerned, he'd shout at me and say, "What the fuck are you doing? You useless C and all this," you know. And it's like didn't understand that. Just wasn't in his vocabulary or mindset that somebody could be depressed. He would just see it as being lazy, useless, or yeah, just you know, someone, yeah, basically useless and lazy, and kind of soft, I suppose, is another kind of way he would look at it, like soft. Um, so that was but that was a common experience. What I found is though that I didn't have anywhere to go. As a youngster, I had good jobs and stuff, and I did try to go to. There was a few groups in the city for like young people, you know, who were mental health problems, and you go in and you just after work. So you go after work once a week, and there'll be other people there talking. It's a bit like a group therapy, but it's a bit like Alcoholics Anonymous for like depressed and anxious people. And when I went to that, because I was high functioning at the time, right? And when I went to that, most of the people there were not high functioning. So I did at the time feel a little bit out of place because I didn't feel like anybody was sharing my day to day issues. But then I started like realizing actually it's just a matter of perspective, you know. And just because someone isn't working, or just because someone, uh, you know, hasn't done this or that, or is just suffering, or not actually able to intellectualize things. Uh, it's just a matter of perspective. They're still going through the same thing as me, all right. And but by the way, there were people there that were very well spoken, highly intelligent, and obviously a lot of them were engaged in like research and education, academia. So there's some very intelligent people there as well, far more intelligent than me. It was an experience, but it was also isolating at the same time because they were young, and it goes back to what I said earlier. I was about 24, I think, and really, it seemed hopeless. Nobody. I used to go in there from work on a Wednesday evening. I think I can't remember what. It doesn't matter. It was like Wednesday or Thursday. Could have been a Thursday actually. Now that I think of it. And between that and that was overwhelming because I was very sensitive. So when I heard people's problems, I thought, "Fuck, this is grim," you know, because I grew up in a family that didn't talk about things, you know. So when I heard people talking about it, it was a shock to me. You know what I mean? I didn't realize that so many people were suffering really badly. And my own friends at the time, when I was younger, in my 20s, they were boisterous, kind of jack the lads, a mixture of that and kind of academically minded people who were very bookish and introverted. You know, so I had a mixture of extroverts who were kind of like boisterous and, you know, bit out there, but like funny, but like not 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 like not emotionally led, as in not overly sensitive. Uh, and also the kind of bookish introverted type. They were some of my friends, but they were more kind of like, I hate to say this, but they seemed robotic to me. They just spoke about what they were learning, and they never really spoke about correlated things or how it matters in life and stuff. So I felt very isolated, and yeah, I'm going on and on. But the lesson I learned from my difficult mental health experience was how alone I was. Okay, and how nobody seemed to understand me. And when I did speak, sometimes it ended up getting me to trouble because people would misconstrue what I was saying, uh, or they'd kind of not take bits that I thought were serious seriously, or they'd take something I didn't think was serious. I just started realizing that everybody is having their own fucking experience, and you know nobody's on the same page, and that was a big shock to me. That was a huge shock to me. And another difficult lesson I learned, right? Because I went to therapy. I've been to how many times I've been to therapy in my life? I went to therapy when I was working as I worked in sales here and there, unfortunately, when I was younger as well. And I remember when I was about 27 or something, I went to this psychotherapist. Now it was a private one. I paid for it, but it was just bullshit, man. I went in there, and it was this woman who just I don't know how long she'd been doing it, but, like I paid quite a lot of money, and I went outside. It was like in an industrial fucking unit outside town. And I got there after work, really tired. I cycled to it, and then I go in there, and it was horrible because you'd say all the things that are bothering you, and then you'd come out of there more upset than when you went in. So that was a huge problem for me. Like therapy was very, very traumatizing for me, and I think that's the case for a lot of people. So yeah, it didn't really offer me any benefits. All right. So first of all, I felt alone. Therapy traumatized me because I used to go in there, talk about things that happened or things I'd seen, and that would end up making me feel worse. And then when I came out, no one could relate to what I was saying. Okay. Now, when you experience trauma at a young age, I will say this as well. I feel that you think everyone else is a bit mad. And the funny thing is, they're thinking you're mad. You're thinking everyone else is a bit mad because they're all like happy or they're being bullies or whatever. And you're saying, why the fuck are they doing this shit? Because to you, you're sensitive and you're thinking this is wrong. But they're thinking you're the crazy one. So it's like, because you're the one getting upset about fucking shit they don't find upsetting. And I feel the problem is you're just slightly ahead of the curve in human experience. They are going to have hard experiences. They're just going to have it later in life, okay, in their 20s or 30s. Now, they may or may not come to the way you see things, but the possibility is they won't, because they will have a brain that wasn't traumatized as a child. So their brain might be able to utilize different neural pathways that take their thoughts to other ways of looking at the world. But so yeah, aloneness, seeing that other people it's hard to communicate, and people like communicate with people was a huge problem. And also what I found was this is when I started realizing really realizing the deterministic nature of everything. Like I didn't know the word determinism and stuff, but I remember about that time thinking like, well, I just said it to a therapist. I said, if everything is so fucking, caused by this or caused by that, there's a cause for something, and this causes this to happen. This causes someone to feel this way. I remember just that upset me. I remember thinking, well, what's the fucking point in this existence? I didn't say I remember saying those words. What is the fucking point if it's all that if it's all that obvious? If everything I'm saying is the fucking truth, as in like, because I'm a depressive realist, so I was saying as I saw it, and she was saying, yeah, she was I suppose she was validating what I was saying, and I just I couldn't understand like why it was so obvious, why everything was, all the shit things were causing more shit things to happen, and nobody seemed overly bothered about it in society. Okay, that really fucking upset me. Like I could see all these shit things, like a deluge of shit, just going out there like a fucking tidal wave and causing more shit things to happen. But everybody's just dancing and fucking, taking the piss and bullying each other, or just getting away with, causing trouble somehow or other, or hurting others. And I just remember thinking, why can't they see what I see, and why isn't it upsetting them? And so, yeah, it added to me feeling alone. That's all I'm going to say. A lesson I learned from feeling alone, though, is to look inwards. It's taken me a long time. Look inwards and depend more on myself and my own perspective, my own thoughts, and develop a kind of compass in regards to how seriously I take others, the snide remarks from others. Okay, how seriously I take the actions of others. When I realize they're not in charge, they didn't choose to be who they are, and it seems that my life is an exercise in trying to accept the unacceptable, but also trying to stay dignified as much as possible and not to join in the madness. Now, I have to say I fail on that one. I fail on that one a lot, as you can see by my channel, but I'm trying my hardest. So that's my little monologue. We've got a Chickpea. Chickpea, welcome to the show. It's lovely to have you back. Can you share a lesson you've learned from a difficult mental health experience, and how did it shape you? By the way, you're muted, Chickpea. I didn't mute you.
Because I'm old.
You remember? There you go. You're unmuted now. Go ahead.
What do you think of Boris? Look at Boris, the cat.
Your camera's not on, darling.
Isn't it? What? Isn't it? Oh, I've got Morris up. Yeah. I've been in hospital quite a few times, and I've been ECT'd 9 times, and that was quite an experience. And I had 18 months of therapy, and I loved it. Loved every minute of it, and it really helped. And also, I take Seroxat. If it wasn't for Seroxat, which raises serotonin levels, I dread to think I wouldn't be here anymore. I wouldn't be here.
So are you saying the medicine helped you?
Yeah, I take Seroxat, and I take 60 mg a day, which is a lot for someone of my weight.
I mean, I was going to say this to Seb. Now, it's a very hard thing, and I understand this. And when I was younger, I did go to that group for a little bit. Like, I don't know, it was about 6 months. It wasn't like prescripted by any fucking health service or anything. This was a charity. This was a voluntary group, like an evening group I went to. It was just youngsters who had problems talking to each other about a lot of kids being abused sexually, a lot of them being bullied, a lot of them had druggy parents, all this type of shit, you know. Now, Seb has had a problem with medication. He views it as a terrible evil. I didn't want to say this, but it is true. Sometimes it does work, and I would say sometimes it's worth persevering and trying to find a pharmaceutical solution or something that might help you feel a bit better. Because that's what they used to say. That's what I've heard people saying. And by the way, I'm not going to tell you what medication to take or if medication is good or bad. But what I'm saying is everybody is this reality is as I said, it's a clusterfuck. It's a fucking healthcare reality, and it's a lottery. As in, you may not find something that works, but you might find something that works. And I would say don't give up, because in the past I took them, but the problem with me is they made me go high as a kite. Okay, so I took, but I was drinking at the time. Let me tell you, I took Prozac, right?
Yes,
that's
it
an
does.
old one.
Prozac does that.
And it made me go really fucking. It made me go first. Prozac used to make me go really stupid. Now, not that that's hard, but I used to say really weird things. It used to make me go. I was sex mad because I was young enough. I was at 24. It used to, funny enough, it used to make me last too long. So it's too much information. And I couldn't sleep on it. And I used to have crazy dreams, crazy fucked up dreams, like really vivid. Now, I didn't stay on it that long because I started getting high as a kite on that shit. But now again, at the time, I was going out a lot. I was drinking, so I probably wasn't living the best life in terms of like the advice they give you. Now, that was that. I stopped doing it then. Years later, I tried one called sertraline, I believe. And that did the same thing to me. When I took that, I only took I took it for 3 days, right? I had to stop because I went high as a motherfucker. I felt like I was at like Glastonbury Festival and popped a bucket load of ecstasy tablets because I was really, really high. And I think that's but it was high to the degree. So obviously I was at work and I just felt completely elated all the time. And that's not, although it felt pleasurable to me, but it's not conducive to being socially accepted. So I had to give it up because I was coming home and I was lying on my bed with my arms out, like on my back, and I was like, I just lay down feeling ecstatically happy. But unfortunately, I couldn't stay in that mode of being because it wasn't conducive to being an accepted member of society. So I had to give that up. So medication didn't do much for me, unfortunately. I have seen
something.
Sorry? Was I supposed to say something, or what? Was I supposed to respond with something, or what did you want me to say?
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying you should say anything. I'm just saying I know we're pessimists generally on this channel, but I would say don't give up hope. There could be something out there that might work, and I really hope there will be.
Have you tried St. John's?
Can I say this?
Oh, for fuck's sake!
All right. So Chippy, let's say something quickly, and then Chippy, go ahead, Seb.
I talk right now, like I've learned to be more humble in my approaches, right? And I don't feel the need to talk. I let Chippy talk.
Okay. Chippy.
Have you tried it? Have you tried St. John's wort?
I heard about that. Yeah, you can buy it in the
Yeah,
supermarket.
I take it a couple of days while on top of my Siroxat because they won't give me any more, and it does.
That's like
make
a
difference.
homeopathic kind of
Yeah,
treatment, isn't it?
It's a plant basically. I'm actually growing my own now for if society collapses. So I've got some drugs to set aside, its roots. But St. John's wort works in the same way as Siroxat does, because Siroxat doesn't make you high. All it does to me is I'm still very depressed and everything, but I don't actually act on my depression, because the problem with depression is okay as long as you don't act on it. It's when you start to act on it, then the problems start. I mean, when I had my bout, I stopped. I pressed all the self-destruct buttons until I lost my home. I lost my job. I lost everything. Had no money left in the bank. And then I landed up in hospital. Yeah,
right.
But Siroxat stops that. I'm still depressed. I'm very depressed. I'll always.
But you can function.
Yeah, I function well. But I look after my flat. I look after my cats, and I look after myself. But I'm far from happy. Far, but I'll never.
I understand that. I understand that. We'll go on to the next question then, and we'll start with Seb. Seb, how do you differentiate between needing rest versus needing a deeper change in your mental health journey? Now, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Take that question as you'd like to.
How do you differentiate? I guess I could tell an anecdote. The people that I've talked to in my life, their main problem hasn't been any fear or like shame or anxiety or even depression. It has been boredom. I've been talking to people who has been hellishly bored with reality to the point where it causes them many problems. This horrible boredom, and the way I see it, the pattern I've seen is that, I mean, mental health experts, they can give, they can't. I mean, as you got like a unusual reaction from SSRIs, right? Because I mean, you were lucky because, I mean, if things went horribly, you could have never felt pleasure again in your life, and that could have been the end.
I mean, I would say I'm quite anhedonic these days, unfortunately. I don't really
that
get.
could have been due to the meds you took. So that
Well,
could have
no, I
been
mean,
what?
Sorry?
What? You're quite what?
Anhedonic. It means you don't feel like, in terms of pleasure, you don't feel ecstatically happy as much, as other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Well,
always
that
had
could
that.
have been due to the meds you took, so that could have been the ultimate consequence. You want a cure, and I got it.
I don't know if it is that.
That's the
Yeah.
Have you
brain.
tried Siroxat?
No.
You should give it a try, because Siroxat is an interesting subject because it causes a lot of health problems. Like, you've got Raynaud's disease, when you get that blotching on your hands.
That's for people who have circulatory problems, isn't it?
Yes, but
Raynaud's,
that is caused by a serotonin deficiency, and I used to have it terribly. I started taking Siroxat 30 years ago. It cleared it up overnight. And
that's crazy.
Siroxat is all linked to strange autoimmune problems. I've done a lot of work into this.
You've mentioned something we haven't broached yet, and that is autoimmune problems.
Oh, I can tell you all about those.
Yeah, but people don't think about it, or it's not talked about enough, and that is mental health as a reaction to some kind of intolerance, to some kind of environmental pollutant or a food, perhaps some kind of substance.
It's a lot to do with serotonin, I'm afraid. There's something called Sjogren's syndrome, which a lot of people get. It's really nasty. It takes your whole life away, same as RA does. And
what do they do? Can you tell us about those?
What? RA.
Those syndromes. I've never heard of them. Sjogren. Can you tell us?
Oh, it's a horrible illness that you get. Women get it in their early 40s. I've got it. You get very, very dry eyes, terrible pain in the body, crippling pain in your hands and feet. And doctors tend to diagnose this at rheumatoid arthritis. rheumatoid arthritis and rheumatoid arthritis and Sjogren's go together quite a lot because I've got both. And I've been doing tons of research into all this. And I've discovered that serotonin is at the root of all this. If your serotonin receptors don't work properly, it causes autoimmune problems because your body is screaming out and battling against it. And you know what else works? Stinging nettle tincture. I take stinging nettle for my aches and pains. You've got aches and pains?
No, I don't. I'm lucky enough. I don't have aches and pains at the
Stinging
moment.
nettle tincture works.
Mm.
Actual stinging nettle tincture. I've done tons of research into this. I had to because I was quite ill. Sorry to interrupt. I love this subject.
Yeah.
I valid your input. Do you want me to continue, Brother DNW?
Yeah. Hello to Divine Hazel. Lovely to have you back. And D Prophet says stinging nettles, good stuff. Continue as you were, Seb, please.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So as I was saying, my friends, their problem wasn't this great depression or like anxiety or a turmoil, or it was boredom. They struggled to find a good thing out of life. I guess could be due to elevated levels of prolactin, and I believe also serotonin is the culprit to this. That excessive serotonin and also prolactin or other stuff tends to block a lot of pleasure. So I'm still I've even had anhedonia, but I cured it. But even though I cured it, I still don't know what exactly did it. And
Right.
so I'm still so it's a mystery what's causing anhedonia, and I'm committed to find a cure. I haven't given up on myself for finding a cure for that sort of stuff, even though I've cured mine very well. So what's the difference, I guess, between like if one needs rest? Why is that? That maybe one doesn't get enough. I mean, maybe one wouldn't need rest if one got enough stimulation. If one was actually sensitive to pleasure, one could just get up and do more and more. Yeah, maybe what one really needs is more. They all try to take everything away, right? Maybe one needs something. Maybe one needs more sensitive receptors. I've tried to boost my sensitivity I've tried to boost my receptor sensitivity before, and I think a lot of the risks that people talk about are like overrated. Where is this mania? Where is it? It just seems to be blown out of proportion.
Okay. Thank you for that, Seb. We'll go to JE next. How do you differentiate between just needing a rest, just needing to chill out, and also perhaps, or perhaps needing a deeper change in how you're managing your mental health?
To be honest, I don't think I'm properly qualified to answer this because I myself don't exactly know how to differentiate because I'm always kind of resting. So honestly, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
Okay,
I guess
that's fine.
I
No,
guess
we don't have to have answers. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna
Did
say
you get?
maybe it's maybe a good way to differentiate it could be, at least for me, maybe it could be like when if I feel like if I've because sometimes when you wake up from resting too much, you do tend to feel very sore and you just don't feel good about yourself. So I would say anything beyond the 8 hours that you need a night, if you go beyond that and you feel like, like you're not, I don't know, you're not feeling productive and you're not feeling good within yourself, Past that
Right.
8 hours that you need, your body needs to rest. Well, then that's a sign that you need to get up and be more active, I guess. Not the best
Oh, yeah.
answer, but that's the only thing I could
No,
come
no,
up
it's
with.
fine. I mean, it's about you at the end of the day. I mean, this is also, although we're saying it publicly, it's also about what works for us as an individual, whilst offering the opinion that it might work for someone else, but not being sure. It's a very mental health, just as experience itself of existence is subjective. Now, it's interesting you mentioned about resting and you know the right amount of sleep and all that. You know, the poll that I was running there, what's the most important aspect of mental health to you was the question, and most people, 54%, have voted for self-care and rest as the most important aspect of mental health management. Second most popular was open conversation, okay, and support. 38% of people voted for that. Anyway, so we were talking to Seb, Jay. Now we'll go to Chickpea. How do you differentiate between needing a rest and perhaps because of your mental health, or perhaps needing a change in how you're managing your mental health?
Well, I'm staying with what I've got, the Seroxat. I'll stay with them till the day I die. And as for sleep, well, I don't work anymore, so I just sleep whenever I feel like it. And I sometimes sleep for 13 hours at a time. And then the cats wake me up.
Lucky you.
I know, it's
Lucky
lovely. Yes, it's lovely. Very nice indeed. Me and the cats all sleep together, hours at a time. So I'm staying on the Seroxat, and that's all I'm doing now. Just staying on Seroxat.
Okay.
They work on me.
But you know, you talk about medicine, but I've heard people say medicine isn't the total answer. That you've got to do other stuff with it. So you got to do other stuff with medicine, like socializing, eating properly, exercising. Yeah.
But having a serotonin problem is so awful that in the end, especially as you get older, it completely grinds you down. You get so tired. By the time I landed up in hospital, I was in my late 39, 89 time. I was completely knackered with life, and I was in a walking coma, completely and totally exhausted. And as soon as I started taking the Seroxat, which I started taking sort of 1990 or thereabouts, that I came out of that. So I mean, no, I reckon if your mental illness goes on for too long, it will kill you in the end, because it completely grinds you down. It's very, very it's horrible.
Yeah. Well, you can actually die from serotonin syndrome, which is having too much serotonin. I know if you take MDMA or drugs like that you can get too much serotonin.
Yes.
It can kill you.
Yes,
So
I know.
It's a double-edged sword.
Well, you have to take. Well, I'm on a very, very high dose. I'm on 60 mg, which is very, very high. Plus, I take 200 grams, 2 grams of St. John's Wort every day.
Right.
And, well, yeah, it's a lot. I have got a bad serotonin problem. It's really bad. I've had it since childhood. I was born with it. I was born with Raynaud's. And Raynaud's and serotonin go hand in hand. And you know what? The doctors don't even know this. I had to tell them myself.
Anyway, so you find that the antidepressant cured the depression and your Raynaud's syndrome.
Yeah, the Seroxat, because I've been on all sorts. I've been on Mayo's, amitriptyline, Ativan, Librium, you name it. I've taken it. I've taken overdoses on it. And Seroxat, I've been on for 30 years, 35 years. I haven't seen a shrink since. I haven't felt.
I'm very glad for you. I'm very glad that something has finally worked for you. You know. See, there is hope. There is hope, folks. Guys, we will go to the newcomer. We have a newcomer, and it's Restful Traveler. Restful Traveler. We're talking about mental health. The question is, how do you differentiate between needing a rest, okay, because of your mental health, or perhaps needing a deeper change in your mental health journey? That question's for Restful Traveler. Restful Traveler, we can't hear you. Restful Traveler is gone, but we have Terence McKenna. Now, Terence McKenna, we have to say that tonight's subject is very serious, so please don't be too jokey tonight, because, yeah, it may be taken the wrong way by some people. So, Terence McKenna, how do you
Okay,
differentiate?
sorry.
Terence McKenna, wait, Seb, there's too many people that need to talk. Terence McKenna, how do you differentiate between needing rest versus needing a deeper change in your mental health management?
Well, thank you for having me on the show there, DNW. I would never dream to make a joke out of such a serious situation, but you got to admit, the biggest joke has been played on us. I mean, for eons, we have walked through the cosmos wondering how we got here, and all the time, the Lagos is there laughing at us. Now, as for getting rest versus needing deeper change in mental health, well, I don't know even where to begin with that. I mean, define what rest really is. The indigenous people of the Amazon would rest with their eyes open. I mean, the amazing, powerful effects of ayahuasca on the mental health is what they discovered. Anything that the pharmaceutical company has put together in our contemporary age comes from the Amazon. So I just think, hey, whether I need rest or a mental health day, the best thing I could do is to drink ayahuasca.
Thank you for that, Terence McKenna. We'll go to Restful Traveller there, who's been waiting patiently in the wings. Restful Traveller, how do you differentiate between needing a rest because of your mental health and needing a deeper change, or needing a deeper change in your mental health management? Again, we can't hear you, unfortunately, Restful Traveller. No sound coming from Restful Traveller. D Prophet says define what rest is, and then he makes some comment there. So basically, what is
Whoa,
rest?
where's everyone going?
I don't know. Everyone's disappearing, man. Come back, guys. We have Dr. Serotonin is here. I believe that's Seb, is it? Hello, Dr. Serotonin.
I am Dr. Serotonin. I came
Okay.
to ruin man.
Huh?
Sorry,
Wait, I
Dr.
thought
Serotonin.
DNW said no jokes. No jokes.
No jokes. We'll let him away with it for a little bit. Go ahead, Dr. Serotonin. What would you like to say?
The best book in the entire world. It's 12 Rules for Life by John B. Peterson.
Oh, I'm going to have to get rid of him now because he's fucked it all up by talking about Jordan B. Peterson. We'll
And he
go.
mentioned the lobsters that did so well on serotonin. And he
D
used
Prophet is off. D Prophet, take care, brother. Nice to have you with us. Guys, we'll go on to the next question now. Okay, we'll start with Seb or Dr. Serotonin. How does music or art play a role in your mental health management or emotional healing?
music. It's a waste. We have to have stillness with a lot of serotonin. We can't have a lot of pleasure. We need to have no pleasure.
Okay, and Seb, what's your answer there, brother?
What's my answer? I mean, it's probably boring. Music's good. I can't say anything interesting about that.
So you're a bloody good guitarist. I mean, does that help you at all when you're struggling with your mental health? Does it help to pluck on the strings?
What difference does it make? I don't give a
does
shit.
it help? Does it make you feel better?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay, brother. That's all. I'm sorry to hear that, brother.
Who cares about guitar players anyway, right? Everybody and their grandmother can play a guitar.
That's not true. Someone you think they can play a guitar.
Yeah,
we'll go to JE then.
about
We'll go to JE. JE, brother. How does music or art or writing being creative in general, baking, gardening, whatever it may be. How does the creative part of you play a role in your mental health, or is it something you've ever used to help manage your mental health or improve it, or in your emotional healing, your expression, your cathartic release of your inner turmoil, your transition from being depressed to being jubilant, and the skills you've displayed from that which was tormenting you?
Yeah, well, I'm someone who loves listening to music, so um, yeah, music helps me out a lot. It's one of the few things in life that actually does make me happy and give me joy. So I do enjoy listening to music, and I've actually recently started um trying to get into making music as well too. And yeah, it is cathartic because it helps me to express, my inner turmoil and all the chaos that's going on inside of me. So it is a very therapeutic thing to listen to music and also to make it. And I guess too, just journaling. Um,
Mm.
Journaling also helps. I mean, it's not exactly creative, but journaling my thoughts down also helps me to express myself and get out all my emotions. And yeah, another thing I want to say too is also like I've also kind of started maybe getting into like writing like stories
Wow,
and characters and stuff. And so
cool.
that's also something I want to get into that can also help me to cope and
Yeah.
to also that can also therapeutically help me. So yeah, those are
Work things
the
out.
three things that I
Work.
do to
Fantastic. That's really
yeah.
really happy. Chickpea. What about you? Do you do anything creative, or have you thought about doing anything creative?
Yeah, I
Well,
I play loads and loads of loud rock music every day. AC/DC, Billy Idol, all of them from the 80s. All the good stuff.
TNT, your dynamite. Yeah.
Yes, and all of them. I've forgotten all the words
Wow.
now. And David
Awesome.
Bowie, I have them all blasting every day. And if I'm not doing
Yeah.
that,
I mean, I like some David Bowie, but I feel he was
oh, I love
overrated. I'm sorry to say that.
what?
I think David Bowie was overrated. I'm sorry to
Yes,
say
he
that.
was a bit. But I've found as I'm older, I like him more now I'm older. Oddly enough, I like him more now
Yeah.
than I did when I was young. And I
Yeah.
love Billy Idol, and I do loads of painting by numbers.
Yeah,
Loads.
I mean, the thing about David Bowie is he was very, very artistic, very creative, but I always found that there wasn't much point to some of his stuff. It wasn't clearly, overtly obvious what he was getting at. You know what I mean?
Well,
It was
that's
too
good.
abstract.
It should be pointless. It's totally pointless.
All right,
That's
okay, but I listen. I'm looking for some meaning. God damn it! But yeah, okay, all right,
There's
fair enough.
enough
All
meaning
right,
on this planet. I want something completely pointless. Just
fair
a
enough, fair
lovely,
enough.
lovely sound.
I mean, in terms of old music, I liked a bit of Pink Floyd and Led
Yes,
Zeppelin.
yes. All those
and
sorts of
and I
things.
used to. I don't go. Well, I go to the gym now, but I used to run a lot when I was younger,
Yeah.
and I had my favorite kind of tunes to run to, and
Yes.
some of mine were Black Sabbath. I like Iron Man. That was one of my favorites to run to.
Yeah.
But that's not that. That's obviously a little bit more recent than Led
I
Zeppelin.
created that riff actually. I was the one
Sorry.
who made that riff. I made the
Oh,
riff.
really?
Yeah.
And you know what's good for grief and stuff is painting by numbers. When you paint by numbers, your whole brain empties out and you just concentrate on the painting. Your whole mind goes
Yeah.
empty. Oh, you
Vegan
know that?
Equilibrium has called me out here. Now, the thing about it is Vegan Equilibrium. I just think their music was of a better quality than David Bowie. But anyway, that's just that's a. I'm not going to argue with fucking talented music because they're always going to beat me. So I accept. I bow down to your musical, knowledge and authenticity and everything. So thank you, Vegan Equilibrium. Sorry, go ahead, Chickpea.
Said painting by numbers is fabulous when you're feeling stressed because when you do painting by numbers, your whole mind empties out and you just sit
Okay.
filling in these numbers.
Yeah.
It's fabulous, especially if you're suffering from grief or
Oh.
When I lose it, you know, when you suffer from grief in your mind, you can't push out your mind. Painted by numbers works like a charm.
Yeah,
It
I mean, I've
really,
got friends like all different ages who go to cafes and stuff, and they play kind of like they do like word searches together,
yes,
like crosswords from the not word searches, sorry, crosswords in the paper together.
yes. But painted by numbers, totally, your whole mind just empties out, and you just
Right,
concentrate 100% on this painting, and then you get a painting
right,
at the end of it as well.
right.
I
I don't, okay, so we will go on to, I believe, the next question. Right, everyone's answered it. All right. I mean, we've kind of. I'm sorry if they're repetitive, but it is what it is. Je, what's one thing you wish everyone understood about mental health? Now, guys, I'm just going to pop to the other room briefly. If you could say when you're finished, and then go round and clockwise. So Je, then Chickpea, then Seb. Okay, and say when you're finished talking, so that and tell the other person to start talking. That would be very good. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So one thing I wish everyone understood about mental health is that, as we've discussed already, is that you can't just make yourself, happy whenever you want to. In the case of something like depression, you can't just snap your fingers and just automatically make yourself happy and stop yourself from being depressed. People feel like, and act like, uh, depression and other mental health issues are things you can just, um, just flick a switch with and you can be okay. But that's not how the brain works. And I just wish more people understood that it's not people's fault when they have depression and that they're not able to function. And people really are doing their best day to day trying to deal with it and to function and to live and whatnot. So I feel like people should be more understanding of the fact that, depression and mental health issues aren't these they aren't these things that people can easily control and turn it on and off like a light switch. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I'm done.
Oh, it's my turn. I wish people just talk about it more. Everybody seems to be this happy clappy thing going on. They don't look very happy clappy to me, and it doesn't get talked about. That's my bugbear. Next one.
Seb, it's you. Hello, Seb. I'm going to have to kick him out of the studio because he can't.
Jay,
He's having. There we go.
Jay,
No, he's got it with
Jay.
Seb actually. Seb, come back on, brother. Can you hear me now?
No, yeah, no, I already spoke already, Chickpea.
Yeah. So Seb's back. Seb, would you like to answer that question? One thing you wish everyone understood about mental health?
Maybe like some of guess the dangers of excessive prolactin, or maybe.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I guess it's like that. I guess one just got to increase the quality of one's reward system. That should be one of one's long-term goals.
Right.
I guess that's it.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Wait, Divine Hazel has a good one. This is also
that's what I've
an
shared.
excellent one that she said.
Divine Hazel says, you don't always look sick with mental health issues, and most people put a mask on. And this is actually something I was thinking about today, particularly because, I've read that article that 8 different, common psychiatric conditions and very debilitating psychiatric conditions like autism, ADHD, bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, anorexia, etc. They come from the same root cause, as in like there's 109 genes, and it depends in what way they are combined, but those genes in particular are causing mental health issues. And autism is the most famous for masking, and because people who are neurodivergent are in this world of quote normies, and the normies act in one way, and the autist soon realizes, maybe subconsciously, I don't know, but they soon realize that the best thing to do is to try and act like the other people, even though it doesn't come naturally to them. Because if you don't act like them, you will suffer. You'll be cast aside, picked on, or people will just not take you seriously, or you won't be able to get what you want. You won't be able to participate, whatever it is. So to get your needs met, you have to act like the others do. So they start masking from a young age. But as I said earlier, these mental health problems all have a significant overlap in symptoms. And I would say masking is prevalent in most of them, like anxiety, depression. I think a lot of anxious people are, despite appearances, they may seem confident, but they're shaking like a leaf inside. They're scared, they're fearful, they're frightened. And I've heard that said by like people who are in the public eye, comedians, musicians, people who seem to be very outwardly natural in their expression are perhaps very anxious people. And that seems bizarre, but they've got an ability to mask their inner feelings. But that's a kind of very kind of that's a kind of almost like an extreme example. But I think in most cases people are masking, okay, with mental health problems, like at least ones that don't involve psychosis, because when you have psychosis, you're not really in charge of what's going on when it gets serious. So that's a different matter. But if you're not having psychosis and you're suffering symptoms of mental health problems, I feel that a lot of us mask, okay? So with me, I think I masked my depressiveness or my feelings that something just wasn't right about reality. As in, like, I saw things that, I wasn't happy with about reality. I used to just use humor and not talk about these things in my day-to-day concerns because it didn't get me anywhere. And that's unfortunately, I would say, still the case. If you do talk about certain things too much, people will view you as overly negative. So it's very hard to broach certain subjects in day-to-day life, in real life. I say real life, but you know what I mean. At work, there seems to be this thing in society where people like to say, "Oh, there's a time and a place for that conversation, and it's not now." Yeah, so it's very hard not to mask. It seems to be a social requirement of being a human, is to hold yourself together, to bottle up your emotions, and ultimately to pretend to be someone else in the moment sometimes, someone feeling different things, and your words betray your innermost thoughts and emotions because you're just trying to fit in. You're doing what is expected. You're towing the party line. And this is a problem because it does cause internal angst, internal problems, and it adds to the torment of being mentally ill. And I would say it does cause one to, move and detach yourself from society. And you may favor the course of action that Seb favors, for example. You may detach yourself from society and only talk to people online, for example. That may be the outcome. Or you may not even talk to anybody. There are people who don't even talk to people online, don't even bother. So they're the outcomes. And it is worrying that so many people have to mask. But you have to ask, what are they masking for? They're masking for a society. What is society? Who's running society? What is it favoring? And I'm sorry to say this again, and I know you guys are tired of it now, but you have to look at who's running the world, social hierarchy, who gets to the top. There is a tendency sometimes, a lot of the time, for unfeeling, psychopathic, narcissistic individuals to get to the top. And I feel that they pull the strings on what it is to be human, what is to be expected, because they want that which serves them. And they don't want you complaining because they're enjoying life. Donald Trump, all these characters, they don't want you complaining about existence because for them, existence is a win. Okay, so these types of people, these quote successful people, they have a tendency to control what it is to be human, what is to be expected of being a human in a social setting. And they do like to use phrases like, oh, there's a time and a place for that. But, you know, my motto is the time is always now. If something grieves you, if someone is being hurt by somebody else, if someone has been downtrodden, oppressed, if someone's life has been ruined by somebody else, or, you know, if something needs to be said, it needs to be fucking said. And I'm just going to stop right now. Thank you. Yeah,
No,
so
another thing I want to discuss is that the one more thing is that another misconception that I feel like people should understand is that um is about being neurodivergent. Is that people who are, you know, autistic and have ADHD, they should, I feel like people should stop classifying those things as mental health issues. It's not that they're mentally ill, it's that they just have a different way of seeing the world, you know? And I just wish that people would
yes,
stop seeing
yes.
autism and
I mean,
ADHD as things.
yes, you raise a very good point there. Now, but this is something I thought about earlier as well before I came on the stream, and I was thinking about, yeah, some of these things they're classified as mental health problems, but as I say, I do think everything has a good side. It may not be apparent always, but for example, could you say someone with a depressive outlook or a depressive nature has a side that's not necessarily mentally ill? Is it the fact that they can be ultra realistic? Is that sometimes a good thing? You know, so can we harness the power of being realistic somehow? You know, can we harness the power of being sensitive, empathetic somehow? Are these things that is in the person's nature, and you know you shouldn't kill everything about that person? You know what I mean? You just because you know you view them as
Hmm.
mentally ill, there are parts of them that are very beneficial to them and others. Same with obviously autistic people. But I think the thing is, it's when it breaks down, when it gets too much. When we talk about mental illness, we're not talking about people's natural way of looking at the world, or you know their way of being. We're talking about when it becomes problematic, when it becomes a state of affairs where they're dysfunctional, okay, or they've got feelings that you
Hmm.
know cause problems for them and others. That's what mental illness really is. I mean, you could potentially be a schizophrenic and be happy all your life hearing God talking to you and have thousands of people in your church as a preacher, you know, and people might believe you. I mean, maybe you are hearing God. Who am I to say you're not? But like I'm just saying, there's always another side to it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
we'll go on now. Here's an interesting question. So, thinking about your worst days, okay, the most horrible days, those days when you know you're at your worst mentally speaking. How do you handle those days when your mental health isn't at its best? What helps you stay grounded? We'll go to Chickpea first.
Oh my goodness. Yes, good question. I tend to just wallow in my bed all day with the cats, and that's how I get through the bad days.
And
Also,
it
on
works for
your
you?
last, sorry. Also, on your last question, you talked about how mental illness, blah blah blah, seeing the world for what it truly is. I had a discussion with a psychiatrist actually, and I told her I'd been in hospital for 18 months. I was so depressed that I couldn't even. I was just in a walking coma. And he said to me, Liz, you're not mentally ill. You're very, very depressed. And you're depressed because you see the world for what it truly is. And those were what he said to me. And I
It's
see
quite
it for
a
what it
dangerous thing. Can I
truly
just say one thing, Chippy? It,
yeah.
it, it is a dangerous thing to say to someone who might be suicidal, for example. So
Yes, I
I
know,
don't know.
but that's why I was in hospital, because I was suicidal. You know, I
Yes,
was
but
so
what I'm saying to you, that is a dangerous thing to say to somebody, you know, because can I
well,
also say, although we might like to think we're seeing reality realistically as a depressed person, the truth is the experience is subjective, so other people can see it another way. We've got to be mindful of that. as well?
Well, I don't care how other people see the world.
Mm.
I look at this world, and well, like I said, the shrink said that I just saw the world realistically, and I was in hospital at the time, and I was being cared for, so it didn't matter what he said to me, and I wasn't allowed to leave anyway because I was under threat of a section. That's how bad I was. But when I look at the world and I look what we do with the animal kingdom, sorry, but it's why I hate it here so much. I haven't got a good word to say. And I don't
Okay.
have one single good word to say about the world.
All right,
I
Chickpea.
love the animals and the trees.
Chickpea, how do you handle the days when your mental health isn't at its best?
Well, I just stay in my bed all day with the cats.
So you already said that, sorry.
Yes,
Jay,
but-
we're going to Jay then. Sorry, Chickpea. Jay, what about you? How do you handle the days when your mental health isn't at its best?
Well,
that
it's
question
basically
should be-
the same as it's basically the same as Tricky. I basically just wallow in my bed and sleep all day. There isn't really much that
Right.
gets me motivated to act and to be productive. So I basically just lay in my bed all day and sleep and just wallow in my own thoughts, essentially.
This is when. And do you find sometimes that can make you deteriorate? You know, they can go on too long. They can make you worse.
Yeah, it can. But I don't exactly know any other way to get myself motivated to get out of my funk, you know? So that's the best I could do.
Okay. Marcus says, "What the fuck, guys?" LOL. I don't know.
Marcus, come on, Marcus, come up.
So basically, how do I handle days when your mental health isn't at its best? What helps me stay grounded? Okay. For me, I think I hate to say this word, and I'm fucking sorry for it to perturb anybody, but I think having responsibilities is a good thing. Okay. But so I have to, sometimes I have to do some work. I have to go out with my dog. I have a partner now, and I have friends that I have to visit. I make promises to people. I try to keep them. These are things that keep me going, even on days when I feel like utter shit, because there's someone else, there's another sentient being that needs something, that does help me sometimes. And that's difficult, but it is helpful. And I find that when you do get up, right, and you do get out, right, early, and you get up early and get out and you keep yourself busy, even if you feel completely like shit, sometimes that will help you sleep. Now, I am an insomniac generally, but I do sleep sometimes when I've been absolutely exhausted. Although it doesn't always happen, unfortunately, like I went to the gym. I did a spin class this evening before I came on here, and I sweated bucket loads. I don't know if I'll sleep properly tonight, but at least I'm trying to wear myself out basically. So I do. Obviously, there are medication you can take. I think promethazine is one. I don't take that, but I've heard that works for some people. I don't like the feeling I get from sleeping tablets, and yeah. So I would say where the days when my mental health isn't at its best, what keeps me grounded is the word. What keeps me from like falling apart at the seams? I suppose if I'm honest, I've done it before and it wasn't fucking pleasant. Okay, it's like when you've been there before, you don't want to go back there. Okay, and when I say I've been there before, I've been really suicidal, and I've been really like down, and just functioning, but like really fucking feeling like utter shit. And it's not a place I want to go back to. So I kind of try to remember that I've been really, really terrible. And also, I remember that I've been really quite well. Yeah, I'm well. And I know in my heart that if I have an ability still, I can do things proactively to help myself. Okay, whilst I have the ability. So I can get up. I can get that caffeine shot into me to get me going. I can get out for a walk. Okay, I can eat healthily. I can keep my obligations as much as possible. Okay, keeping obligations is very important, and I don't just mean socially or work wise. I mean bills. I mean yeah, keeping up to date with your payments, etc., looking after your finances. These are all very important because when you start letting one area go, it can fuck up. When you've got mental health problems, you've got to manage your finances, your obligations, your work, your friendships, your relationships, your diet. You've got to be very, very careful in every aspect of your life because if one goes out off kilter, it can have a domino effect. And because you're a sensitive person, mentally speaking, it can send you over the edge, you know. But here we go. Brother Marcus, it's a shame he couldn't come on because he would have been great to listen to. Brother Marcus says routine. Absolutely. Routine is very important. For example, I have to walk my dog 5 miles a day. I have to, you know, and that's something I've got to do no matter whether I like it or not. That's what my dog's expectation is, you know. And my dog needs to go for a shit at night and in the mornings, you know, when I'm at home and that, and when I have to bring it to the dog minder sometimes as well. Um, Routine, responsibilities, goals, sunlight, behavioral activation, exercise, healthy diet, proper sleep, and wake cycle. Yeah, I think they call this sleep hygiene now, and that is very important as well. Yeah, trying to get your circadian rhythm to a position where it benefits you. Okay, what works for you? Getting up at the right time, you know, so that you're activating your hormones and just feeling at your best. Connection to others, humans and animals, cognitive reframing, tools of the trade. So I suppose that's where your philosophy can come in useful. And one of the benefits, I suppose, of there being no apparent objective truth that is tangible to us humans is you can formulate your own view of reality as long as that will be helpful to you as long as it doesn't hurt others. I mean, that wouldn't be a good thing to do, but you've got a lot of leeway there to come up with your own definition of what reality is, and you can craft it in your favor. So, try your best to do that. Jay gives congratulatory remarks to Brother Marcus. Yes, they were well deserved. And Divine Hazel says she just be, let go, allow, and heal. This is what Divine Hazel says. Divine Hazel made an interesting comment there. She said she can sing in front of thousands of people, but she finds it hard to sing in front of just a handful of other people. So, Divine Hazel, have I got a secret I don't know, pop musician in my audience tonight? In our audience tonight, who is this Divine Hazel? What genre of music are you singing to thousands of people, Divine Hazel? No doubt, Vegan Equilibrium will be clanging at your door now, trying to get you to sing with him because he's another talented musician. So who knows what we've started here? And D Prophet says I'm becoming a vitalist. Well, I mean, I am a vitalist to the degree I think everybody should. It is vital that everybody lives to the best of their abilities and that we lift others up. I think that is vitally important. So it is vitally important that we bring out the best in each other and ourselves as individuals. And that's just a fact. Vegan Equilibrium said he got a rib contusion and he had to cut the weight that he lifts down significantly, and that makes him stressed and frustrated because Vegan Equilibrium is a lifter, and we all know that. So I'm sorry to hear that, Vegan Equilibrium. I hope that that sounds quite serious, but that doesn't take too long to heal. And he says that she probably sings medicine music. And we got a D Prophet says raw milk should have been more than enough calcium and vitamin D to fix the problem. Noodles. I think he meant raw almond milk or soya milk, perhaps. Now, Divine Hazel says entertainer of the year, multi-genre. What part of the world are you in, Divine Hazel? This is getting interesting now. So she says she's an entertainer of the year in multiple genres. Who gave you that accolade, Divine Hazel? Is there video evidence online of you accepting the award? You don't have to provide it. I'm just asking. And V Equilibrium says he's got some some raw milk for D profit, and I can only guess where he wants to put it in into D profit. So yeah, this is oh, you're in the USA. What? Okay, well, and Brother Marcus says, thank you for the kind words, Divine Hazel. Lovely jubbly, as I used to say in Only Fools and Horses, which is one of my favorite comedy shows growing up as a little child. I don't know if you Americanos or Canadians or wherever you are have ever heard of it, but it was funny. Only Fools and Horses. So let's go on here. Oh, we've only got one more question. One more question. Here's the question. What advice would you give to someone who's struggling with their mental health but feels unsure about reaching out for help? Maybe they're afraid to reach out for help. Who should they reach out to? Your opinion, okay? Question is for Chickpea and then Jay.
Go and see their doctor. Sorry, but what else can you do?
Okay. I must be mindful of kind of first world privilege here. That there is the case that some people in the world just have got no medical professionals within their kind of network of possible help, which is a scary indeed. And my heart goes out to people in parts of the world where there isn't adequate support for their mental health struggles. You know, and that's something to be mindful of. You know, I really. I don't know what to say. It's a huge problem. How many people out there in this world are living in countries with very, very terrible. I mean, mental health services are pretty much bad in all countries, but they're obviously at least they exist in some countries, or they make an effort. Some countries, it seems like you're fucked. Basically, you're really fucked.
We're all
if
fucked,
you have
no
a
matter
mental
where
health
we live.
Yeah, but come on, at least you listen. There is a kind of some countries like I think the UK is quite helpful. Canada, Scandinavia, Europe in general, Canada. I think Australia, New
Yeah,
Zealand.
but I don't meet those people on a day-to-day basis. I
No,
thought
but you still could have
I thought
sympathy
you
for
meant-
them, can't you?
Sorry?
I sympathise. I feel bad about people
But
in
you
this
asked
world.
me what I would say to someone, blah blah blah. So if my next door neighbour said to me blah, I would say go and see the doctor.
Oh yes. I wasn't suggesting you heal the world with your words. I'm just saying. I was just saying, I was talking from my own perspective here. I can give advice, but I am mindful that my advice is from a first world privilege. You know, that's all I'm saying. Je, would you like to give an answer to this question? What advice would you give to someone who's struggling with their mental health but feels unsure about reaching out for help?
I guess I don't know. That's a tough one, you know. Like, I guess the best advice is to I don't know that it's tough because if they don't have enough money to see like a therapist or something, then there isn't really much options for them, you know. So I guess maybe the best place to do is to maybe they should go online and maybe get some resources online. I guess that's the best I can say, because you know, mental, like you said, mental health
I'd say be very careful. Be very
resources are
careful
a
about
privilege, you know. So
yeah. Be very careful about going online and getting resources online because there's a lot of make sure you're not paying for it online. I would say don't pay for any fucking mental
Yeah.
health support online because there's a lot of people taking advantage of mentally ill people. I mean, I see it all the time these ads for apps, these ads for fucking online therapists and all this shit, you know. And it's like some fucking robot talking and stuff, you know. Just be very
Yeah.
careful about spending money online. About you know, at the end of the day, it probably is supporting the industrial mental health complex that we spoke about earlier. The industry that takes advantage of people's suffering. There is a wealth of information online from good-hearted people that is offered for free, but be very careful. Enter at your peril. It is something that has to be read carefully, and unfortunately, it is up to you to deduce what is good and bad. But I do wish you all well on that journey. We got Noodles here. Noodles, what advice would you give to someone who's struggling with their mental health but feels unsure about reaching out for help?
Well, reaching out to who is the question.
Well, yeah, you can add that in. Who should they reach out to,
Well,
in your opinion?
generally they're going to be scared to reach out to anyone. You know, they should engage in their best coping strategies, eat their favorite foods. I don't know. Definitely call a friend. You know, talk to someone. Go to the emergency room. That's always. Although if they're afraid to reach out to even a friend, they often will be scared to even do that. But yeah, I mean, just whatever their base comforts are to engage in those things, and definitely call a crisis center or crisis hotline if you can, and let them know. And those people actually offer a lot more resources than you think. They have all kinds of resources that they'll help you with. They'll help you guide you through it. Now it's not perfect, but if you're in a blue state, it's going to be a lot better. I will say that mental health, you know, counseling and treatment sucks in a lot of the red states. A lot of those types of people have, you know, a lot less sympathy for people struggling in that scenario. I was once admitted to the hospital in Florida, and fortunately I was in Sarasota, which is a nicer part of Florida, but the inpatient place that I went to, I got what's it called, like where they, you know, they force admit you for like 72 hours or whatever. I was there for
It's
2
called
days.
being sectioned, right?
They
I don't know
have
what they're
a
called.
specific name for it there. Like in Massachusetts, it's called Section 12. Over there, it's Baker Act. In Florida, it's called a Baker Act. But they sent me to, after I had been in the ER for like, and I admitted myself at first, but after I'd been in the ER for a few hours, I was like, okay, I'm ready to leave. And they're like, oh no, we're holding you. You're Baker Acted. And I mean, I don't want to dissuade people from calling for help or going for help, but I just want to say Florida sucked, and the place they sent me was really gross. And the doctor that eventually like let me out said that was like probably the best place in Florida, but so I was lucky. But like Florida is number 50 out of 50 for mental health.
Wow.
In terms of treating mental health. But I live in Massachusetts most of the time, and I've been hospitalized here. And Massachusetts, I would say, I don't know the actual stats, but I would say it's probably in the top 5 or top 3 for mental health in the nation, if I had to guess. They have really good accommodations here. They will give you a vegan meal. The place is really clean. The place in Florida was gross. It was so gross. The whole place smelled like, you know, sweat, piss, and shit. I had to sleep in a wooden box, literally, with like in a room full of like fat, snoring drug addicts. But
Right.
Massachusetts was a lot better. Really nice place here. But either
Right.
way, what I did get out of that, both of those things, was particularly more so the place in Massachusetts, is that they offer like these group counseling things where they educate you a lot about different aspects of like mental health and like why you're experiencing things. They have like drug education and all kinds of stuff. And they explain things to you like almost in a scientific way and in an easy way for you to understand, so that you can sort of more easily, like, reasonably understand what you're going through when you're having a mental health crisis or an addiction crisis. And I think a lot of, like, understanding how the brain works and the chemistry behind all of it makes a big difference in knowing how to deal with stuff. And I'd also say, you know, obviously don't do anything illegal, but if you can get a hold of ketamine, ketamine is like I found a really great way to deal with a mental health crisis. And in pretty much every state in the US, you can get it legally. So,
Okay. Thank you for that. Guys, if you're on x.com or Twitter as it used to be known, the show is also there. So you go x.com/finding Gnosis 8 if you're on there. Give us a follow and you can retweet whenever we're on. Hopefully we'll get some more people in that way. But it's there. I've provided the link to a few. Sorry?
No, I said
Someone
sure,
say
sure.
something?
I'll add you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, as I said, the more shares, the better, because we'll get more people coming on here. Like Chickpea joined us. I mean, we didn't used to have Chickpea, but now she's a regular, which is fantastic. Tanel says we can't really say we know how the brain chemistry works, and I would say that's unfortunately true. I mean, it does seem like a lot of the time we're pulling out of our arse in terms of trying to explain how things are working, and it does seem to change. But thanks, brother
there
Marcus.
is
Yeah,
some
as well.
stuff.
Thank you.
No,
Sorry?
there is some stuff that, one, they do know about through scans and studies. And then there's also some deductive reasoning. So, like, just an example, like, they teach you about how, you know, with drug addiction, you feel down, like your whatever levels of whatever is low, the drug's going to pick you up past the levels, but it's going to deplete you of certain things. So then, as soon as the drug wears off, whatever it boosted is going to go lower than it was before, and then you start a vicious cycle. And they just help you understand that. So, like,
Right.
if you understand that with time, your body naturally does want to reach an equilibrium in that regard, then it can make it easier to deal with addiction. And there are studies that can support that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. It's interesting. Addiction. I mean, I've never had an addiction apparently, but I think I have. I mean, I used to like a drink, but I don't think I was addicted to it. I wasn't physically addicted to it, but I used to like going out as a youngster and getting sloshed. But it wasn't like the main thing. I enjoyed socializing side of it. It just so happened that I had a very good ability to drink. Unfortunately for me, I could put drinks away, and I I just didn't get fucking. I didn't get like I didn't start falling around. I could just put them away and spirits and pints or whatever. And unfortunately, I built up a tolerance to it that was very, very strong. Not a good thing to have, by the way. But I did. But I did stop drinking when I was what 20. A month after my 25th birthday, I stopped drinking. I think I told that story before because I got into a fight with some bouncers and they attacked me for no reason. I told that story on here before. But that's why I stopped, because I realized that I was a happy drunk and it wasn't conducive to being in a big city with psychos around, because you need to be, unfortunately now, at least in my city, you need to have your wits about you, you need to be careful because not everyone has your interests at heart. What was I going to say? We've got Seb is back. Guys, we're going to end the show soon, but if you want to come on here, I'll let the kind of VIP lounge run in the background. So if you get on here now, you'll be able to talk after the show is over. If you don't want to talk on the show, that's fine. So just come on now if you want to. Brother Marcus, if you want to, anybody, King Capricornio. I know Divine Hazel can't because she said she's out in the sticks with no ability to to talk because the internet's quite bad. Tanel, if you want to come on here, guys, come on now. Is the thing? Come on now. If you want to come on here, come on now. I suppose we'll go round now. Did you find the stream in any way beneficial? I mean, tonight, guys, in the chat, what do you think? Is this a topic? I mean, the funny thing is, this was kind of a random one, but I know at some stage in the program, the 12-month program we had devised for the channel this year, there is 1 month, I believe, where we're devoting 4 streams specifically to mental health. So this is kind of a surprise once off. I mean, what happens, what I envisaged for the channel was we'd have 4 streams a month on set topics, right? That we've already pre-planned, right? And then the other streams were going to be random ones, like just that popped up and caught our interest or something that we could collectively talk about. And that was this one today. I put it on the community post it was voted for. But there will be a whole month devoted to mental health. Oh, Divine Hazel said she didn't like the topic. That's why she joined late. So she didn't like the mental health topic. You can't please everybody, okay? I mean, I didn't like Monday night stream myself. We did one on, what was it? Morphic resonance or something. And yeah, it just, I don't know. It was what it was. Divine Hazel, why didn't you like the topic, if you don't mind me asking? Guys, anything that has come to mind having been here together for these few hours talking about mental health, mental illness on the Finding Gnosis show? Anything has come to mind? Anything you'd like to share? Yeah.
Hello, Noodles. Noodles.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm all right. And
What's that
yourself?
Yeah, I'm fine. What's that baby you got there?
Oh, that accent is awful, Noodles.
All right, guys. Guys, I have to go soon, so we'll leave the enamorant to after the show. Yeah,
What's
the
that little
enamorant.
doll you've got there?
What do I got where?
Is someone cutting grass or something? Like what's going on? Using a lawnmower?
Is that Deep Profit on the stream, like running his blades or something? Or is that Seb?
Oh,
No, it's Tanel. Tanel, I'm going to mute you for now. Noodles, I'm sorry to have to break up your conversation there, Chickpea. It looked like it was going somewhere.
You're always such a cock block, bro.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll go around now in all seriousness. Noodles, Chickpea, let's finish the show now, Chickpea. Contain yourself.
I just want to ask Noodles something.
You know, Chickpea, I told you to email me and you never did.
Oh, sorry. Yes, what do you think of Boris?
Boris Johnson?
No, Boris the cat.
Boris Becker?
Boris the spider?
No,
Boris.
My cat
Boris the spider.
I have an announcement to make also.
All right, guys, I'm going to have to shut everyone up now. We're going to go around. You can make your announcement when it's your time to speak, Seth. Noodles, what did you get from the show tonight? Have you got any closing remarks on mental health, mental illness before the end of the show? Noodles.
Just remember that, like, there's no inherent meaning to anything, so try not to get too attached. If you can help it, if you can remember it, try not to get too attached to whatever the things are that are, eating away at you, because it generally means that you're still putting a lot more, weight into something that is meaningless.
Okay, brother. Thank you very much. Very, very wise words. We did talk about that earlier. Detaching from your thoughts, not attaching to them, at least not giving them too much credence sometimes, letting them just flow and go. Very wise words. We'll go to Chickpea. I'm going to have to mute you JE, I'm guessing. Yes, it was JE. JE, you were making a little bit of noise, but I'm going to unmute you when it's your turn. We'll go to Chickpea next. Chickpea,
Right.
your final words on the live show. You can stay afterwards and chat amongst yourselves.
Right.
But in terms of tonight, can you make your closing remarks on mental health, mental illness, whatever it is you'd like to get off your chest or say?
Well, I think a lot of mental illness is caused by the fact that most of us, or some of us, are not designed to live in this sick society that we live in. That's what I think on the subject.
Okay, thank you for that, Chickpea. We'll go to Seb next. Seb, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself and give your closing remarks, your final thoughts on mental health, mental illness tonight?
Yes, so I make an announcement, and I have cooperated with Brother DNW to create the Finding Gnosis Fight League, and it will host several amateur bare knuckle fights through United Kingdom.
In the United Kingdom?
Seriously, huh?
Okay, good. Go ahead, sorry.
No, but I'm sorry, but no, I mean, it's obviously not as straightforward. I feel like there's a futility to just me saying something. So what if I say something? Nobody's going to I mean, people already know these things that they shouldn't really feel that bad, but they do. Like, what am I supposed to say, really? And right now, to make something right, I can't.
Okay, Seb, that's fine. I mean, you don't have to have any answers. You're under no obligation. But thank you for your vocalization. We'll go to Just Skeptical now. I'm going to unmute you. Just Skeptical, your closing remarks, final thoughts on mental health, mental illness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to say that I just hope that people don't be too hard on themselves for being mentally ill because it's not your fault that you're suffering and that you're experiencing mental health difficulties. And so I just hope that people don't be too hard on themselves and um that they're compassionate towards themselves and also others who are experiencing mental health issues. And you know like you guys have said, like they should try to get more active, um get more active and engage their creative side through music and art and writing and whatnot, as a way to help ease the issues that they're facing. Um, so yeah, and I just hope that all of us are eventually able to overcome our mental health issues someday. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Just Skeptical. Very well said. And we're moving on now to Tanel. Tanel, I'm going to give you a bit more time because you're obviously new here. If you want, you don't have to say anything. If you don't want to say anything, you can either stay silent for like 4 seconds and then I'll get uncomfortable and move on. But you can also let me know you have nothing to say. But do you want to say anything about mental health, mental illness, given what we've been discussing tonight on the show? I don't know how long you were listening for, but ultimately it was all about trying to face the challenges, how to overcome it, how to cope with it, how to increase well-being. Do you have anything to say, brother?
My first and last words. Is it still noisy, or is it? Was it even me?
I think it was Just Skeptical, JE.
Oh, good. Okay.
No, it wasn't me.
Well, it's not noisy anymore, so that's okay. So it's not noisy anymore. There you go.
Yeah. The problem is with addictions. There is no good option, is there? Sobriety is not the solution. The way our brain chemistry adapts and runs away from the equilibrium or a constant positive state is an unwinnable state of affairs, isn't it?
I mean, with respect, some people have overcome addiction and flourished. So I don't know if what you're saying is true, Tanel. And also,
But
the
isn't
way
it like
I view
they
life,
have to accept less than they would actually want to experience? They have to sacrifice something to quote
yeah.
unquote
But if the thing
overcome.
about addiction is, I view everything as addictive in some way, but it's just some of them are good and some of them are bad. So if you're sacrificing something that is bad, I don't think that's a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. Okay. It's about what you replace it with, in my view, to now. So if you're addicted to something that's causing negative effects in your life or others, the lives of others, and you replace that with something that is beneficial to you and others, I would say that's a good thing, isn't it? So
Everything has positive and negative effects. Even the things
yeah,
that have negative effects, they have also some positive effects, which you have to give up then.
yes, but again, I would say a lot of it, in my view, is intention. Maybe you're trying to do the right thing. That helps your mental health, because if you're trying to do the right thing, yeah, at least you can say that much for yourself. Okay, in my view, I might be wrong, but that's just something that works for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, anything else you'd like to add to know? Because you are the newbie, so you get a bit more time.
Newbie. You mean newbie in this particular
I
stream?
meant tonight. Yeah, you just came on, so yeah.
Yeah. I don't think
Yeah,
so. Maybe
Tanel's
I'll write
OG.
some comments later.
Sorry.
Maybe I'll write some comments later. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead,
yeah,
Magnus.
that'd be fine. Okay, Tanel, well, lovely to have you. Stay on. You can chat to the others backstage after the show. I'm not, brother.
DNW, you muted yourself.
Oh, sorry. I was saying brother Marcus is here. I'm not sure if he wants to say anything because he's muted, but brother Marcus, welcome. If you do want to say something, say so in the next 4 seconds.
Yeah, just practice self-compassion, stay healthy, and good luck to everyone.
Lovely words. Thank you, brother Marcus, for coming on and saying that. Practice self-compassion, okay? And be kind to yourselves, guys. We didn't choose this existence. I don't know if
Even
there
if
is
you're the
free will.
biggest piece of shit in the world.
Well, you can be kind to yourself to the degree that, you know, if you start behaving yourself, life will probably might get a bit better. I don't know. I don't know, Noodles, what the
Doesn't.
answer is there.
No, it doesn't.
I know what you're saying, but you know, we're all in this shitscape together, so it is what it is. Sometimes we've got to get others to behave better. We've got to pull the good out of them, as difficult as that is.
Good
And I
luck
don't
with
know
that.
how to do it all.
Good luck.
Oh yeah,
It's to
good
pull
luck
the
with
good
that.
out of me.
All right, guys. I suppose we'll leave it there. And thank you to everybody who came on here and spoke. Thank you to everybody who commented in the live chat. Thank you to everybody who will comment in the chat afterwards when it goes on YouTube after the live is finished, and Twitter as well. Oh, thanks for following us on Twitter, brother Marcus. I appreciate it. And anybody else who wants to follow on Twitter, just look up Finding Gnosis. You'll see it's the same logo as the one used on the YouTube profile. So thank you so much, and we'll end the show there. I won't do any kind of long drawn out closing, playing music or anything. I'll just say thank you very much. I hope that you're lucky in your endeavors to try and feel better, and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Bye now.